Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter podcast. All the news from the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter podcast, where we talk about the latest boxing news. If it's related to boxing, we'll talk about it here. My name is Eric Lorta, and I'm here with my co-host, Ringside Robert, and England's adopted son, Joe Habib. We have a great show for you today, and as always, you can catch us on the web at ringsidereporter.com. If you want to call or ask questions, just give us a call at 323-870-3857, and we'll probably be here till around 9 tonight. Today, we're going to talk about the WBC will reinstate Alexander Povetkin. After testing positive, the whole gambit, he will be reinstated. We'll tell you more about that. Dana White getting into boxing. We'll talk about that. A lot of people upset about that, which kind of surprises me, but we'll talk about it. And we have added rankings to our website, and we'll see if you agree with them. But first, we get started with HBO, Danny Jacobs versus Luis Arias, 12 rounds middleweights. Danny Jacobs put on an impressive performance, easy for me to say, against Luis Arias by going 12 rounds and winning just about all of them. The scores were 118-109, 120-107, and 119-108. Jacobs just kind of stalked Arias, Arias is a really, really good boxer, man, but just not on Jacobs' level. You see that it was just a different Jacobs out there. I mean, it was you could see there's levels to this, and you could see it, last night where he was there to, Arias wanted to win. He just couldn't, man. It's a very good win for Jacobs, but now I think it's time to step back up in competition, which is definitely what he wants to do. Beeb, what were your thoughts on the Arias-Jacobs fight?
Well, Arias' best chance of victory, I think, was to close the gap and fight up close and dig to the body and try to slow Jacobs down. And that just wasn't the case for him. I think he underestimated Jacobs' strength, and he also commented about the size of Danny Jacobs. So I think he thought that he would be able to move Jacobs around, kind of muscle him a little bit on the inside. But once I think he got hit with that big shot early on, I think mentally the game plan just changed, and I think that he realized that he's got to be very careful. He can get taken out of there, and I think he was concerned about getting knocked out. So that's why I think he was a little bit defensive. I thought he was holding a lot. I was surprised the referee didn't give any warnings for holding. Maybe he did, but possibly he could have gave a stern warning and maybe then taken the point away. But, I think Jacobs pretty much showed that he was on a different level, as you said. And Arias, he took the fight. Give him credit for that. It was a great opportunity for him. And you have to ask yourself, did he show enough to prove that he belonged on the big stage? I don't think he did. He's a decent fighter. He's pretty solid. But I'm not so sure he's going to beat the top of this division. I'm not so sure that I could even put him in the top 10, top 15 of this division because, there's big, strong guys in this division. There's guys that can punch in this division. And if you're complaining about Danny Jacobs being too big, if you're saying that Danny Jacobs was faster than you thought, stronger than you thought, hit harder than you thought, there's a couple other guys that are right in that same ballpark as Danny Jacobs, and you're going to have your work cut out for you if you plan on staying in the middleweight division, because a lot of these guys are big. There's guys that are 6 feet. There's guys that are rehydrating up to 175, 180-ish. David Lemieux is a big, strong guy. We all know that Canelo can punch. We all know that Triple G can punch. So if you have any aspirations of being a champion in this division, then you're going to have to deal with big, strong guys who have pretty decent hand speed and guys who can just box and guys who can fight as well. So I think Arias has some soul searching to do if he wants to stay up at 160 or possibly drop down to 154, where I think he may be a little bit more suited for that weight class as opposed to these big guys at 160, because Danny Jacobs was like eating his punches like candy. Danny Jacobs, was not concerned in anything that Arias had to bring to the table last night. And with all the talking, he really didn't back it up. But I understand. I understand that, he wanted to hype the fight up. He wanted to hype himself up. He tried to bring attention to the event, which I have no problem with. What I did have a problem with, is John David Jackson in the post-fight press conference basically complaining about how big Jacobs was and how it was unfair that he rehydrated up so high and how it was supposed to be for some type of title. But if it was for that title, the Jacobs would have to step on the scale the next day and have to be within 10 pounds. And Jacobs just said, I don't want to fight for that title, similar to what he did in the Golovkin fight. But, you know my stance on the whole thing. Either have same-day weigh-ins or leave it the way it is. There shouldn't be two weigh-ins. Guy makes weight, the day of the weigh-in. He has every right to rehydrate up to whatever he wants to. And what people fail to realize is if you're dealing with a big guy like Danny Jacobs, okay, who's walking around at a heavier weight, it's hard. It's a harder camp for him. It's more taxing on his body. It's more effort on his body to get down to 160, whereas the guy who's walking around at 170-ish, it's an easier weight cut for him. So, it can be looked at in two different ways here, because the guy that's walking around at a big weight, walking the park for him to make weight, so he's going through a more strenuous process than you are. So, if he's able to rehydrate up to a certain weight, that could backfire too. He could become sluggish the next day. So it is what it is. You make weight on the day of the weigh-in, and, if you're not happy with that type of situation, then go back to same-day weigh-ins in the morning. But this whole thing of having the second, fight, I'm not on board with that. And I'm just tired of people using the weight bullying excuse as a reason for losing. I mean, it is what it is. If you can't deal with people that are bigger than you, then drop down a weight class then. Simple as that. Go down to 154 and fight if you're concerned about guys being too heavy, because as I said, not to sound redundant, but a lot of these guys are walking around at 175-ish, 180-ish at this 160-pound weight class. And Canelo, when he was at 154, he was even walking around at almost a light heavyweight. So this is the the environment we have in today's sport of boxing. When they went to these day before weigh-ins, this is what's going to happen moving forward, and you have to adapt to it. It is what it is.
And you brought up a good point. You said that Luis Arias, his best chance to win would be to crowd Jacobs, go to his body, kind of take those legs away, and just kind of crowd him on the inside. And you're right, he couldn't do that because he was too small. Once he ate a couple of shots, that was game over for him. He had no play. It looked like he had no plan B. His plan B was to box, but he's not a better boxer, so that kind of went by the wayside too. And I tell you what, and you're right. And I heard John David Jackson also crying after the fight. But you know what? You knew the contract. You signed the contract. Yeah. You knew your guy wasn't 160 pounds. And there's no way he should continue in that 160. I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but if he wants to give himself the best opportunity to win 154, I don't know if he can cut down to 147, but 154 at least. At least. Yeah. There's some big punches down there.
Yeah. Can I ask you?
Sure.
Not to interrupt you, I apologize, but let me ask you one question about John David Jackson. Did you see any, or I shouldn't say see, did you hear any substantive advice that he gave in that corner?
No.
I mean, what did he really do? He's basically, okay, just move your hands, just punch more, just go in there and work off your jab. Like, you got to be more busy. Like, specific instructions on how to win this fight. And he was way behind. And he goes, all right, just go out there and box him. Just go out there. No, you're down rounds. You gotta knock him out.
I need
you gotta knock him
more
out.
Instruction than to go out there and box him. I
go
need
out there and box him.
Than that.
Left
after your jab. He's open for that right hand. When he,
later on in the fight, it was like round 7 or 8. He goes, well, he is getting weaker, so keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, what is he doing?
I mean, no offense, but Sergey Kovalev was not a great student, but John David Jackson's really not a great teacher either. I mean, he just it's such a different different. It's like night and day when you look at Danny Jacobs' corner, and then you look at John David Jackson in there. I mean, Danny Jacobs was being given great instructions. He was being told exactly what to do.
Right.
He was being said, you know what? Don't load up with the shots. When he goes and tries to grab you, get a little rough with him, muscle out of those clinches. You know, don't be nice to this guy. You know, rough him up. He's going to try and grab you, rough him up. Free those hands, and you work inside. He was actually given specific instructions, whereas opposed to Arias, you know, so, and then for John David Jackson to cry after the fight about the weight, it's like, as you said, you signed the contract. It's common knowledge that Danny Jacobs is a very big middleweight, and you know he's going to get big the day of the fight. And, you know, it's unrealistic to just expect Danny Jacobs to only rehydrate 10 pounds.
Well, it doesn't matter if it is or isn't. I mean, the point is you signed the contract. It said 100 on fight day. If you wanted a stipulation in there, then you should have put one in there. Oh, you're not a big enough name? Well, then that's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes. You want the fight, you got
to do. You don't get that. That's the way it goes, you know. And John David Jackson, I don't know what his deal is. Yeah. But again, he was crying after the fight. He was crying before the fight. I saw him give an interview about Sergey Kovalev, and he was just completely crying the blues about that whole situation, saying he's got a surprise for him and this and that. And then he's talking about Sergey Kovalev saying, you know, if any fighter out there wants to know how to beat him, body punches will beat him. Like, we didn't see that in the Andre Ward. Like, he's like, that's a news, you know, like you're breaking news there. You know, well, body punches will beat him. And that he claims that Sergey Kovalev drinks vodka in training camp and this and that. And it's like, come on, man, really? I mean, be professional here. And I don't care what Kovalev said about you. Be the bigger guy. Be a professional here. I mean, you look bad. You look like a crybaby. I mean, what are you, the Taylor Swift of boxing? I know I wouldn't want that guy cornering me now.
Well, this is the thing, though. You know? This is the thing. If you know the guy's drinking vodka during training camp, if the guy never listened to you during training camp, why did you stay with him so long? Why did you you were basically a hired gun and you took the check.
Exactly.
And that's what it was.
Exactly. And that's what it looks like.
And you accepted everything. You accepted everything the guy, all the guy's shortcomings. You accepted the disrespect and the abuse that the guy was giving you. He actually told you to shut up and be quiet during the fight in the corner in the first fight, and you sat there and you didn't say anything for the rest of the fight. And you're right. He's just taking a check at that point. And if I'm a fighter, do I want a trainer like that? You know what I mean? No. Am I going to pay for a trainer like that who's just going to sit there and be a yes man? No.
Okay, this brings up a couple of very key questions here. Number one, most of the time before fights now, fighters are tested. If Sergey Kovalev was drinking alcohol, wouldn't that show up in any kind of test? Number one.
No, because it's not a banned substance.
Nobody cares. It's not a banned substance. What, Eric? It's not a banned substance.
Okay. All right. Number two, how much say-so before a fighter is getting ready for a fight, before he agrees to a fight, how much say-so does a trainer have? Because the way I understand it, the trainer works for the fighter. So does the trainer have any say-so on what fights his fighter should take?
They all have say-so. Now, whether it gets done or not, that's a different story. But if you're not the A side, you're not getting that done. I mean, you're not.
Right.
I mean, and you signed the fight at 160. You signed the fight at 160. You know when the weigh-ins are. The weigh-ins aren't a day after. The weigh-ins aren't a day of. You want them the day of, then sign the contract like that, or don't fight him.
And the trainer, the trainer does work for the fighter, but it's like this. If I hire you to do something, if I hire you as my financial advisor, or if I hire you to manage me, I'm giving you that responsibility. If I'm hiring you to train me, then I'm expecting you to run the training camp. Because if I ran my own training camp and I did what I wanted to do, then I wouldn't need you to train me. So the fighter's got to trust the trainer, and the trainer's got to trust the fighter. It's a team. But at the end of the day, the trainer runs the training camp. And if the fighter is not going to listen to the trainer, then there's no need for that trainer to be there. So that whole marriage between Sergey Kovalev and John David Jackson made no sense, because if Sergey Kovalev wasn't going to listen to this guy, then why are you cutting him a check? Why is he getting a percentage? And John David Jackson, if the fighter's not going to listen to you, then why are you there? You're wasting your time. You were just there basically for a check to take the money. And, when you were asked about whether or not you would have jumped over to Andre Ward's side, and then you made a statement like, well, if the money was right, you're basically in it for the money, and that's fine. That's fine. So just admit that. It has nothing to do with the fighter. You're there for a check. And you basically indicated that when you were being interviewed and asked about questions about that whole situation of you jumping ship on Andre Ward. So it is what it is.
He's got no credibility.
He has no credibility at all. He revealed himself.
Right, you're 100% right. He revealed himself, and he revealed himself, like I said, during the interviews. I mean, again, if that's your stance on it and that's what you said, then why would anybody hire you? Why? Yeah. I know I wouldn't go out for and hire a trainer that was bad mouthing other fighters. I mean, fighters going to bad mouth you, great, whatever. But I know I wouldn't hire a trainer like that. And then him going out and telling people how to beat him and stuff like that, and then crying after the fight because his guy lost and it's a weight issue. And dude, come on, man.
Then you're going to sit there and say how the guy doesn't listen and he's a horrible student, but you stayed with him his whole career until he lost. And for a great portion of his career.
All those things may be true. All those things that he said in that interview may be true, but it shouldn't have been said.
Exactly.
And
he only said them because he got fired.
Where does Danny Jacobs go from here? Do you think that he's talking about fighting the winner of was it Lemieux and Saunders? Do you think that happened?
Yeah, I do. I think that's the best move.
I think that's the best move. Robert, what do you think?
Yeah.
No, I love that idea because I still firmly believe that Danny Jacobs deserves a rematch with Triple G. So in order for Danny to force that issue, you get the winner of David Lemieux and Billy Joe Saunders, and then you have something to offer, either Canelo or Triple G, depending on, of course, whether that rematch gets worked out. If that rematch gets worked out and they have the rematch, then you're in a wonderful bargaining position. You've got something to bring to the table, whoever wins that rematch. If that rematch does not take place, you could still fight Canelo or Triple G, provided you beat either Lemieux or Saunders and have a belt to offer them.
You know what fight I want to see? And it's a ways away. It's a ways away, but I want to see it. I want to see him and Charlo get it going.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good fight.
Oh, I'd love that.
I think that's a good fight. I don't think it could happen soon, but I think it maybe happen maybe next year. Maybe it just depends, like I said. But I think because of his relationship with Heyman and the PBC, I absolutely think that fight can happen.
That's interesting fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right? I think so too, man. I think that's an awesome fight. Let's talk about a not-so-awesome fight. Let's talk about Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus Marius Walk. 12 rounds, heavyweights. Miller scored a 9th round TKO over Marius Walk. Miller outworked Walk, who may have broken his right hand. I'm not sure if he did or not. It wasn't. I didn't get it substantiated, but they thought he did. The fight was stopped in the 9th round. Time was about 1:02 in the 9th. I don't know. And I think the doctor stopped the fight, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think the ref stopped. I think the doctor stopped it. The doctor stood up on the apron and kind of stopped the fight. Was anybody really impressed with Big Baby Miller? I wasn't. I'm never impressed with him. I know he wasn't he 16 pounds lighter than his last fight? How much did he weigh coming in here? Because they both look pretty big dudes.
280.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was 280 and he was 298 for his last fight. That's 18 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow. But hey, listen,
stay away from the food, man.
Wow, look at you, fat shaming. You're terrible.
Even Kellerman was fat shaming him last night too. He basically was saying, that the top of the division guys like Tyson and when Tyson was fighting, how he got rid of like fat heavyweights. So then Kellerman's like, maybe Joshua and Wilder will be the two guys at top division to get rid of all of the fat heavyweights, just like Tyson and Holyfield did and Lennox Lewis did. back in the day.
I didn't.
And it's like, yeah, go back and listen.
Yeah, no,
you remember?
he said that during the fight, Eric.
Yeah,
Sure,
he's
he did.
basically
I'm not disputing.
and he was like, he's like, both these guys really don't look like they've trained hard for this fight, and basically calling them fat heavyweights.
They both look bad. I mean, they both look like walruses in there. I mean, they really did.
But you know what? You know what though? I do like about Big Baby Miller. I think he can fight. I like his personality, but I think he can fight. I think he's really, really crafty with his combinations. I like what he does. I like how he'll be like tap 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 tap, and you know, it's not just like he's tapping the opponent just to kind of feel him out. Sometimes he taps, and just to kind of maneuver the guy, and then he'll maneuver the guy. So you know, he'll tap with the right hand. Sometimes he'll throw a couple soft right hands, tap, and kind of push him over towards his left hook. So he's crafty. Like there's a method to his madness. I like some of the little subtle things he does, like when he was kind of pulling Walk's head down a little bit to kind of maneuver him, and then he shot the uppercut in there. He's got pretty fast hands for a guy his size. He's not the biggest puncher in the world, but he's got fast hands. You know, he's a quick-handed guy. He's a fluid combination puncher. He sets shots up good. And also, you know, he's not predictable. You know, he changes up looks. I think he can box a bit. Now, is he in the best shape that he could be in? Probably not. He seems to think that he's better when he's heavier. That's what he said last night. Could be a big puncher. I don't know. You know, that's something that you either have or you don't have.
Listen,
but,
yeah,
he's crafty. I like how he like rolls shots. He'll get hit and he rolls shots, and he's a good counter puncher. He knows how to suck you in. I think he's a good fighter. But the thing is this: if he can't hurt a guy like Wilder and he can't hurt a guy like Joshua, he's not going to be able to evade all the shots. The big question is, can a guy like that stand up to their power? But also keep this in mind too. He's a volume puncher too. A guy his size to be able to throw the amount of punches he throws. You know, he's just like pat, 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 pat. I like how he paces himself, and I like how he doesn't. You know, everything doesn't have to be hard, but you know, he lulls his opponent to sleep with some of those tap shots. Lets him think that, you know, this is the rhythm of the punches and this is the power of the punches that I'm going to be dealing with, and then he sneaks a power shot in there. So I think he's a tricky guy. I think he's a real sophisticated, tricky guy with his offense. I like that about him, and he throws a lot of punches. I don't think he's a bad fighter, and I don't think he's a bad fighter to watch either, because he's constantly moving his hands. So I got to give him credit for that. He's got a stiff jab, but he's just not a dynamic puncher. That's the big thing. And at this weight class, when you fight the upper echelon, you're gonna have to. When you fight a guy like Joshua Wilder, you're gonna have to have power to keep these guys honest and make them respect you. And if you can't do that against those two guys, and even some of a few other people in this heavyweight division, then you may have some trouble, because Marius Wack, not a big puncher. You know, Washington, not a big puncher. He's really never been in there with a guy that can crack yet.
Right.
I'd love to see how he can do against a guy like Amir Mansour. A guy that's going to get your chest.
Who knows? Yeah.
That would be an interesting fight.
Yeah, I tell you what.
So that's the thing. You got to see him in there with a big punch.
If you're 280 pounds and you're not a big puncher, you're not a big punch. You don't have it. I mean, at that point, and Big wasn't. Didn't he used to be like a kickboxer or something like that?
Yeah.
So he's going to have stamina. He's going to have a little bit of stamina. He's going to have stamina probably a little bit better than your average guy, 280 pounds. That being, you're 280 pounds. You know, and as soon as somebody starts going to the body on him and making him work, because I'm watching that fight right around the 7th round last night. It looked like he was about round 23. I mean, both of those guys are just laying on each other. They're exhausted. And he didn't look like he had very much in him. I got to be honest. I mean, I don't know. Robert, what did you think about Miller?
You know, I like Big Baby Miller. I like him a lot. He's got potential to be a very good fighter in this division. And yeah, I'm picking on him for his weight, but honestly, I'd really like to see what he looks like in the ring if he's like 30 pounds lighter. If he's down to about 250. I'd really like to see if he could cause anybody issues, because it looks like he can move. And I love the way he uses his hands, but honestly, I just think he's too big for the style of fighting that he wants to use. I think if he comes in about 250, he would give somebody a very interesting fight. If he thinks he's going to be a success at 275 or 280, he's got another thing coming. I'd really like to see what this guy looks like in the ring against somebody in top condition. I don't think we've ever seen that yet.
No, I don't either. And Marius Walk, I mean, I kind of expected a little bit more, but again, if he broke his hand, he broke his hand, but he didn't look like he showed up in the best of shape either.
No, he did not.
But I'm hearing, we heard it last night. They're talking, and Miller's been calling out Anthony Joshua, and they're talking about that maybe Joshua's. Are you serious? Is that serious? I mean, are we really talking about that fight? You kidding me?
Well, Eric, what bothers me about that whole thing? It looks like Eddie Hearn and Joshua are going to go in opposite directions, and they're going to totally avoid Deontay Wilder, because apparently what Joshua says about Wilder, at least he feels like he's not ready for him. And I don't know, with you being a champion that's got 2 belts, how can you say you're not ready for another champion? That just blows me away. And I like Anthony Joshua, but I don't understand this strategy here. I don't.
Well, I mean, he doesn't want to fight him, and you can't make him fight, and that's that. We're just going to have to accept it. I mean, he doesn't want to fight him. He's scared. I don't know I don't know if we can really call him scared, but for whatever reason, he just doesn't want to fight. Maybe he feels he's not there yet. But listen, man, it is what it is. We can't make him fight. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it.
I know, but I just don't understand that logic, because most champions today, when they have a chance to unify, they normally do it, unless you're Mikey Garcia, and we'll be talking about that later.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. What can you do? You don't want to fight. You don't want to fight. I mean, you want to continue to fight the Jarrell Millers of the world versus the actual guys that matter. So who knows? So could be a possible title shot, unfortunately, for Miller in the future, And if I'm Miller's management, that's the absolute wrong move for him. But, who knows? Cletus Seldon versus Roberto Ortiz, 10 rounds, junior welterweights. The Hebrew Hammer, Cletus Seldon, and we talked about him we heard so much about this guy, and I've seen him before. Did not expect this. Seldon dropped Ortiz in the first 30 seconds with a monster right hand. Floored him again, but got out of the round. Ortiz was cut in the second round over the left eye. The fight was eventually stopped in round 3 at 2:43. Seldon looked really, really good here, man. What did you think of it, Robert?
Oh, I'm very impressed. Maybe Terrence Crawford knew something. I don't know. Maybe Crawford left the 140-pound division at the right time. I'm not saying he's ready to fight that kind of fighter yet, but wow, I was very out of the HBO fights last night. He put on the best performance, and I can't wait to see him again. That was pretty impressive. What can I say?
Yeah, he sure was, man. Wow. Would it be? What were your thoughts on him?
He's a guy that is just he's like a bulldozer. That cross-arm defense kind of reminded me of Archie Moore back in the day, George Foreman. I think he's quick. I think he's explosive. He's just like one of those guys that he moves you. When he touches you, he hurts you. It's like even if you block one of his punches, it's going to hurt. You know what I'm saying? He's just a heavy-handed guy. He's in phenomenal shape. He keeps coming forward. He keeps his head low and tucks his chin, and he fights out of that crouch. That's going to be hard to hit on the chin. And, he rolls shots. He catches shots on the forearm. He's able to push you back. And if you're going to come in, leading with your head, or even if you're going to punt, try to, a jab or a right hand, you run the risk of hurting your hand. He's just a guy that for a lot of junior welterweights, especially with Crawford moving up.
Well, I tell you what, who wants to see Adrian Granados go back down to 140?
Yeah, that'd be a great fight.
I'd love that. That would be, that I don't know if Seldon's ready for that, but I'd love that fight.
Aside from Seldon down there, you got Jose Ramirez down there. You got, it's stacked down there, So, you got a bunch of people down there. So I would love to see him go back down there. They're talking about Amir Imam and Jose Ramirez fighting again. I guess fighting for the title or something like that. They're the #1 contenders.
That'll be his next fight because
and Imam was just
won last
knocked
night.
out by
Ramirez
Granados.
night.
Imam was knocked out by Granados. So
Oh,
definitely,
okay. Yeah, that's
definitely
true.
Good fights and stuff like that. So he definitely needs to go back down there. But yeah, Seldon looked good, man. He was impressive. He was fun to watch. He was a fun fighter to watch. So there it is. ESPN, the card on ESPN. Jose Ramirez versus Mike Reed, 10 rounds, junior welterweights. Ramirez dropped Reed in the second, then stopped him seconds later with a flurry against the ropes. The fight was all Ramirez, man. He just looked bigger, stronger, and just did whatever he wanted. Reed just couldn't get into the fight, and I think the pressure actually had a lot to do with that. When somebody comes in at you like that, there's not much you can do. Eventually, like I said, man, Ramirez, the pressure just got him out of there. Robert, what were your thoughts on this fight, the Ramirez-Reed fight?
Well, Californians own. We filled up the place last night, 15,000 people. No,
they love
in all
that guy.
seriousness, for a little bitty city like Fresno, California, to be on the map, it's not one of the biggest cities out here. And because it's in the middle of nowhere, it's farming country, and for people to actually drive, they have to drive a long ways to go to a place like this. And for people, he reminds me of Robert Easter. Whenever Robert Easter has a fight in Toledo, you know that 10,000 people or more are going to show up. Jose Ramirez is starting to be on that level.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Terrence Crawford in Omaha. No, this is very impressive, and I'm so sick of Teddy Atlas. Well, he stopped it too early. He knew what was happening. He was slipping shots. No, he wasn't fighting back, Teddy. He wasn't fighting back. He wasn't defending himself. What was the referee supposed to do? And I haven't seen Aman on TV since he lost to Granados, but he better be in tip-top shape, or Jose Ramirez is going to tear him apart too. But no, it was fantastic to see a small city out here put their guy on the national TV map. It was great to see.
Well, I tell you, I thought the fight was stopped at the right time. You don't want to see unnecessary shot. I always err on the side of caution, man. I don't want to see anybody hurt. You know what I mean? I don't want to see anybody
That's right.
out cold or anything like that. And he took some shots. He was taking some shots. He took some shots in the first round that shook him. And he also did in the second round, But, I think the fight was stopped on time. Beeb, what were your thoughts on this fight, the Ramirez-Reed fight?
Ramirez looked good. He looked good. He was strong. He was powerful. And I had no problem with the stoppage. I really didn't. And the ironic thing about it is I was cussing Teddy Atlas out because I was just so tired of him saying outrageous things in that whole broadcast. I think he was just really, really off points. I wasn't impressed with his commentary last night at all. So I asked Linda. I pulled Linda in and I said, "Look at this. And you tell me stoppage was too early or not." Too early. And I was like, I said, "Listen, don't ever be in my corner if I'm fighting. If I'm getting the beat, I want you to be in my corner." I said, because I thought the stoppage was on point. She thought it could have continued. I was surprised, but hey, maybe she likes blood and guts. I don't know. But the thing is this, okay, he was slipping some of those headshots, shots he was taking, and then he got hit with a body shot, and then he kind of like almost he like cringed in pain. He's like, like that. And right then and there is when the referee stopped it because he was in severe pain and he wasn't punching back. And he may not have been getting hit in the head, but you know what? He was getting hammered to the body, and it looked like he may have possibly broken a rib or something. So I had no problem with the stoppage, but says, well, you know what? I'm going to say something that a lot of people probably aren't going to like, and it's probably going to be controversial. So right when he does that, he's saying it just because he wants to stir the pot. He wants to go against the grain. It's like, oh, I'm going to say something that's going to be totally unpopular, because he's going out of his way. Sometimes a lot of things that some of these broadcasters and these analysts do nowadays. You listen to these shows like First Take and you listen to Undisputed. You get guys like Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith. These guys are going out of their way to say incredulous things for shock value. And I think Teddy Atlas is right in that same ballpark. He's right in that same group of people right now because, you know what? You're the only one saying something. And the reason why you're doing it is because you want to be that guy. You want to get the attention on you. It's like this guy is an attention whore. When you see when the camera's on him, he kind of like looks, and it's almost like it's his cue to start acting crazy and screaming and yelling and stuff. That like it's manufactured fake emotion in my opinion. And I think the guy just does it because he's basically he's a guy that just wants attention. He's a guy that's just, I don't know, maybe something in his life that, maybe he wanted to be a boxer or something early in his life and he just couldn't be a boxer. So now vicariously through fighters and stuff like that, he's kind of jealous of some of these fighters. I don't know, but it just seems like he's always got something negative to say. And, he kind of, sees something and he tries to magnify it and blow it up into something that it's really not. And just on point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're being a little hard on Teddy Atlas, Beeb, honestly,
I don't like him.
No, I don't think he's being hard enough.
I don't like him.
Come on.
I don't think he's a good commentator. I don't.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you? So let's talk about the Better Beef.
No, I don't think he's being hard enough.
Let's talk about the Betterbiev Koelling, because that's when it really got, because him and Kriegel apparently went back and forth. Definitely the Betterbiev Koelling was a better fight, but Betterbiev stopped Koelling in the Enrico Koelling in the 12th after knocking him down twice in the round. Time was 2:33. Koelling looked like he was going to give Betterbiev some problems, man. During the first couple rounds, I saw him. He was backing Betterbiev up at times, and he just had it looked like Betterbiev was confused at times in there, man. And I thought, wow, this guy is this is going to be a good fight because this guy's got a lot of experience. He's a good fighter. He's a very good boxer, and he looks like he's given Betterbiev some problems. But from the third round on, that was it. And it's not like I gave Koelling the first two rounds or anything like that, but I thought he was definitely competitive. But as the fight went on, it became more and more one-sided. And I thought Betterbiev looked really, really good in there. I thought he looked better than 11 or 12 wins that he has, that's for sure. And like we were saying, that Koelling is a good fighter. Now, Beeb, this is where you kind of really took issue with Teddy Atlas's comments. What was he saying in here that really bothered you here?
He was saying that Koelling didn't have the right temperament. And he was, he's basically indicating that he was there just to survive. He wasn't trying to win. Teddy, the guy's temperament, the guy's character, fighter. There's just some nights when you go in there and the other guy is just better than you. Just a better fighter. Sit there and criticize Koelling, and what's his name there? Kriegel is not a guy who is an expert analyst in the sport of boxing. He's a good, decent writer. He's pretty good at interviewing people. He's not a guy that you're going to look to for analytical type of things when it comes to the sport of boxing. We know that. But he made a good point. He's sitting there saying, well, Teddy, if you're going to criticize Koelling, then why not criticize Betterbiev? I mean, what does Betterbiev really do? I mean, he's winning rounds, but he's the guy with all the knockouts. He's the puncher. So Teddy, if the other guy's just there to survive and he's offering up no resistance whatsoever, then why isn't Betterbeef just walking through him? Oh, well, he's just trying to be cautious. It's his first title fight. Why would he be cautious then, Teddy? If the other guy is offering up nothing and he's just there to survive, then go in there and take him out. And I have no issue with what Betterbeef did. He wants to fight that way and win every round. That's his choice. But my issue is with the hypocrisy of Teddy Atlas. So you're going to criticize one guy for not going all out, but why not criticize the guy who's better for not going all out? The onus is on the knockout puncher. The onus is on the guy who is the better fighter. The onus is on the guy who hurt the guy, and after the guy got hurt, he started becoming a little bit apprehensive because he didn't want to get hurt again, which is human nature. It wasn't like he just stopped trying. He was trying to win the fight. He just was outgunned. Atlas to sit there and say, oh, he doesn't have the right temperament. No. The other guy's just better. It just happens that way sometimes. Sometimes, you wake up in the morning, you go out there and you compete, and whoever you're competing against is just better than you. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's just like Teddy Atlas when he's a trainer. I can point out when he was training Povetkin for that brief period of time. Povetkin was that knockout guy. He had a lot of knockouts, got with Atlas. He became a little bit less aggressive, a little bit more defensive-minded. Atlas is a safety-first guy when it comes to training, okay? He's more of a guy that focuses on defense. And you saw Bradley when he had Bradley for the third fight against Pacquiao. Bradley was kind of laying back, trying to be the counterpuncher, not be too aggressive, trying to catch Manny Pacquiao, leaping in, whatever. But that's a stupid strategy against Manny Pacquiao because Manny Pacquiao is a faster guy. So once again, it's the hypocrisy. When Teddy Atlas is the commentator, he'll sit there and say, oh, well, the guy needs to step on the gas. He's on television. He needs to make a statement. He needs to let it all hang out. But then when the guy does let it all hang out, oh, well, he's not being defensively responsible. You got to say something and be consistent with your analysis. You can't just pick and choose when you're going to say certain things about certain fighters. You got to be consistent across the board. So either it's you're happy with the guy being defensively responsible and not being reckless, or you want a guy to be reckless. You want a guy to be aggressive. You got to make up your mind. You got to look at each situation different. The guy Koelling last night was in there with a heavy-handed guy, a guy who was a much better boxer than him, a better all-around fighter than him. He had no advantage whatsoever over a Betterbeef. So for him to do as well as he did, early on, as you mentioned, he was coming forward. He was landing some jabs. He was trying to land punches. And even when he got hurt, he was being a little bit defensive, but he was still trying to throw punches after Betterbeef stopped throwing his combinations. He was still coming forward. He was trying. So what else did you want the guy to do? So I just have a problem with the hypocrisy, the contradictions. And Teddy Atlas always feels the need to character assassinate somebody. Why does it always have to be about their temperament, their behavior, their psychological profile? Why does it always have to go down to that? You know what I'm saying? I just analyze the fight. Look at the guy's skill sets. Look at what the one guy does well and the other guy doesn't do well. And it was common sense to see that Betterbeef was just the better fighter, and there was nothing Koelling could do that was going to ever change the outcome of that fight last night. It is what it is.
Don't you think, though, that Teddy was right when he talked about temperament? Oh. I know you don't, but just hear me out here. When he talked about temperament, to me, what that meant was he doesn't have the right temperament to win this fight. When he says that, to me, that means he needs to get more aggressive, which he wasn't going to be able to do against Betterbeef. And he wasn't going to win the fight in the way it was going. So in that aspect, isn't he correct?
No, because this is the thing. If he becomes more aggressive, then he gets knocked out.
Maybe.
So the thing is this: he really couldn't hurt Betterbeef. Okay, he did nothing to really stop Betterbeef from coming forward. So, if he did do that, then Teddy Atlas would have been saying, "Oh, well, he's in there with a big puncher. He needs to be a little bit more defensively responsible." We've heard, "Oh, he needs to be." He's being too overly aggressive. He's got to watch out for the counters. So, it's a catch-22. You can be more aggressive, okay? But early on, when he was kind of being a little bit more aggressive, what happened? He got hurt. See what I'm saying? So, in a situation like that, you really got to pick and choose your spots, because if you're not a big enough puncher to hurt the other guy, and the other guy is a huge puncher, then why give that guy an opportunity to knock you out? So this is the thing. Anyone could say what they want. You hear fighters go, "I'd rather go out on my shield." But let me ask you this: what looks worse on a record? What really looks worse on a record? Knocked out or lost by decision? So it's more marketable for yourself if you're in there with a big name, okay, and you did go the distance. Now I can see what you're saying. Oh, you go in there and just go into survival mode, not even throw punches. But we both agreed that wasn't the case.
That was not the case. No,
Koelling
he was trying. Yeah, 100% he was trying.
So Eric, you could rephrase it and say it like this. This is what you can say. Because when you say the word temperament, you're talking about the guy's character.
I don't like the phrase he used. I'll be honest. I don't like the phrase he used, because it's exactly. Like you said.
So he could have said, the guy is not equipped physically, and he doesn't have the style. He doesn't have the style.
Right.
That's what you're saying. He just doesn't have the style that could cause Betterbiev problems. But when you use the word temperament, and then he goes, well, and then Kriegel, he embarrassed Atlas. He goes, well, you've been putting the guy down all night or whatever. You've been ranking on the guy or riding the guy all night. And then Atlas comes back with, oh, well, I don't disrespect any fighter that has the guts to get in the ring. Yes, you do. When you sit there and you question a guy's character, you're basically insulting the guy. You're saying that he has no character. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. He doesn't have the right temperament. And it was a poor choice of words, because when you say that, look up temperament in the dictionary. What does it mean? It's the characteristics of someone's personality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what temperament means,
for sure.
So he's basically saying the guy has no character. You're basically saying the guy is gutless. The guy's in there for a check. The guy's in there to survive. And that's not the case. I mean, obviously he's going to try and not get knocked out. Anyone would go in there and try to not get knocked out. No one's going to, like when you hear fighters say, oh, I'd rather go out on my shield. No one wants to get knocked out. If you had a choice, would you rather get knocked out or would you rather go the distance? You know what I'm saying? Now, I'd rather get, I'd rather, if I'm getting the bag beat out of me, then I'd rather have the referee stop it. And that's another issue I have with, I'm going to change the subject for 2 seconds with the Maurice Walk fight. When the trainer's sitting there saying, do you want to continue? How's your hand? You'd never ask a fighter, you never put the fighter in a situation where he has to say, I quit. You have to be the trainer, and you have to be compassionate and caring enough for your fighter to pull the plug on him when its time is right. Put it on the fighter. You're supposed to save the fighter from that type of embarrassment. The guy had a broken hand. The corner should have stopped that fight. It's the same thing. Like, this whole thing of saying it takes a lot of bravery to get in the ring. And then when these guys do get in the ring, we're going to sit there and call them bums. We're going to say they're cowards. We're going to sit there and shit on these guys when they're doing something that none of us could do.
Right.
How many rounds of boxing did Teddy Atlas at the professional level ever go through? How many rounds does he have under his belt? How many professional fights does he have? It's so easy and convenient to sit there and say this guy doesn't have the temperament. He doesn't behave like a fighter. Who the fuck is Teddy Atlas? What has he ever done? How many punches has he ever taken in a ring against a world-class guy that could kill him? That's levels above you. You know what I'm saying? That's what gets me aggravated. All these friggin' armchair quarterbacks want to sit there and talk shit about fighters. And again, we've seen fighters, do things, and we can be critical of fighters. But to sit there and call them bums and cowards and this and that, it's so convenient for us to sit there behind our keyboards on Twitter talking shit about fighters. So convenient for Teddy Atlas, who's got a headset on, and he's sitting down at a table with a mic in his hand. He's not taking shots. Who the fuck is he to say, oh, the guy's got no heart, he's got no character, he doesn't behave like a fighter? That just pisses me off. I'm sorry. It really does.
Robert, what were your thoughts on Teddy's commentary?
Wow, I don't know if I can top that, but you know, I'm sitting and I totally agree with everything that Joe Habib just said. I approve his message wholeheartedly. But here's the thing. This ESPN deal with Top Rank is supposed to bring casual fans to the sets. You're supposed to have people there who will teach the casual fans, you know, what's going on in the ring or explain things to them. Is a guy like Teddy Atlas an asset to this deal, or is he a detriment? Because I have a feeling the more and more people tune in for fights and the more they hear this guy talk, it may be a turnoff to them. And say you want to introduce somebody to the sport of boxing and you say, well, you know, there's going to be a big fight on ESPN. Could you imagine a first-time boxing fan sitting down and listening to this blowhard talk for 3 hours? 9 times out of 10, somebody will turn the TV set off and say, I don't want to watch that ever again. I'm wondering, is Teddy Atlas a plus or a minus to ESPN and their boxing coverage?
I don't know. I like Teddy Atlas. I think he does a good job out there. And as far as his accolades go, listen, Shannon Briggs, Wilfred Benitez, Barry McGuigan, Michael Moore, Mike Tyson, and Tim Bradley, all trained under Teddy Atlas, in front of countless others. But those are the big ones. Tracy Harris Patterson also under Teddy Atlas.
Michael Moore, who couldn't avoid George Foreman's right hand.
Yeah, but he put it on Holyfield, though, didn't he? And Holyfield beat Foreman. So, listen, combat math doesn't work.
I don't know. You know, look, I'm always going to watch boxing. I'm a hardcore boxing fan. The three of us are. But I'm wondering, you know, the more I listen to him, and last night was the most pathetic performance I've ever seen him put on. He should be on First Take or some show like that. They need to bring in an Andre Ward or somebody like that who can sit there and talk intelligently about what's going on inside the ring, and don't spend your night arguing with the two people that are next to you.
Listen, I'll be honest with you.
Do your job, Teddy.
Kriegel, I wasn't a big fan of Kriegel at all. And I thought that, you know, I'm just not a big Kriegel guy, you know, and after hearing him last night, I wouldn't want to hear him again. I thought that I'm not a big fan of that three-man. I'm not a big fan of the three-man booth. Yeah, hopefully he won't be back. But I'm a big fan of that three-man booth. I'm not a big fan of the three-man, but I like the guy, the color guy, and the actual announcer. You know, you have the announcer, you have the color guy, and that's it. I don't need three people in my ear. Both of those guys know enough about fighting. You know, Teddy knows enough about boxing to call it. The other guy knows enough about, you know, everything else to keep the conversation flowing. That's it. You know, I don't need Tim Bradley up there. I don't need anybody else up there. That's, you know, especially a guy who's never done it before. I didn't think he was that great. Yeah, Champ Ross says Kriegel was terrible. I agree. 100% Kriegel was terrible. And don't argue with a guy on live TV. You moron. He's over there, and Kriegel decides to start an argument.
What they spent the night doing.
Kriegel decides to start an argument right in the middle of the telecast with Atlas. What are you doing? The fight's in the ring, not on the side.
But Atlas does the same thing. He had Tim Bradley in the booth with him that time for the Jeff Horn fight. Bradley was saying Jeff Horn was doing good things, and Atlas was sitting there arguing with Bradley, trying to convince him otherwise. This is the problem with Atlas, and Robbie hit the nail right on the head. Atlas works in the sport of boxing, and to work in the sport of boxing, you have to have some type of love for the sport of boxing. When you listen to Atlas talk about the sport of boxing, all he does is trash the sport. It's corrupt. It's this, it's that. And we know there's problems with the sport. We know that it's not all friggin' roses. We know this. But he makes it a point to sit there and bash the sport. For instance, the Anthony Joshua Vladimir Klitschko fight. I'm going to go on record saying that was one of the best heavyweight fights that I've seen of all time.
100%.
I have no problem saying it. You know what Atlas turns around and says? Oh, how low has the bar gotten if we're going to consider that a great fight? Like, why does he have to shit on everything? You know, he has to, and even Bernard Hopkins goes in ESPN and he's being interviewed by Teddy House. Teddy House, well, I love you, Bernard, but you know what? You know, the total crop of fighters right now that you've been fighting, you know, the division isn't what it once was back in the day. You don't have a lot of competition. That's why you're so sick. The guy's still fucking 48 years old and he's a world champion. That still says something. I don't care. You know, like this whole thing about the nostalgia of the sport of boxing. You're gonna sit there and tell me that you wouldn't favor Anthony Joshua over Rocky Marciano? Like, fighters have gotten better. You know, fighters, the sport is different. To sit there, like Joe Louis had his bum of the month club. Like you look at Sugar Ray Robinson fought a lot of guys, like taking nothing away from Jake LaMotta, Carmen Basilio, Gene Fulmer. Those guys were not big, athletic, fast guys that he fought at middleweight. You know what I'm saying? So to sit there and just go back to the glory days and think that that's what boxing is, and now boxing is totally taken a turn for the worse, and it's not what it once was, and this and that. It's just ridiculous. The guy is so negative. It's like when you go to work every day, you may hate your job, but you're going to walk around saying this job sucks, this sucks, this sucks. That's your job. That's your office. That's what you do. And you're going to sit there and talk shit about the sport in which you work in. Wouldn't it behoove you to uplift the sport? Wouldn't that be better for you? You know, you're commenting on a sport and all you're doing is saying how bad it is. Then why the fuck are you even there? Why commentate on it? If boxing is so bad, then why don't you just wash your hands of it and just don't even talk about it anymore? He's always talking shit about fighters. He can never give anyone credit. Never. He sits there and always tries to find the negatives. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
I've never heard him say one nice thing about any fighter at all.
Never. Oh, Mayweather is a great fighter for this era, but you know he's just too defensive-minded. He's not like the old fighters. Once again, the hypocrisy. So which is it? Do you want the guy to be aggressive, or do you want him to be defensive? You sit there and criticize Floyd Mayweather for being defensive, but then you sit there and talk about the guy last night not being offensive enough. Be consistent. You know, he's just stuck in his era of the glory days and the nostalgia. You have these guys like that in the sport, that nothing today is as good as it once was before. And that's just, these guys are just going to always be in that bubble. They're not going to be able to think outside the box. They're never going to appreciate anything that is new and that is modern and that is today's type of boxing, today's fighters. They're never going to embrace, a guy like Taz will never be able to embrace a modern day fighter today without saying he wasn't what the other guys were that came before him. And that's just bullshit.
Well, I think you were both too hard on Teddy Atlas, my friend Teddy Atlas.
Not hard enough.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Beeb, real quick. Let's go to the across the pond. Liam Smith versus Liam Williams, 12 rounds. It's a WBO eliminator. Liam Beefy Smith won a 12-round majority decision over Liam Williams in Newcastle, England. Scores were 117, 111, 116, 112, and 114 even. Now, Beeb, you had an interesting take on this. You actually had Williams winning the fight. Tell me what you thought of that fight.
Well, it was definitely a competitive fight. There's no question about it. The rounds were hotly contested. They were close rounds. But ironically enough, I just was seeing something different than the announcers were seeing. There were rounds where both guys kind of stood their ground. They fought from the outside. They were trying to, work off their jab. They weren't really aggressive. But then as the fight wore on, I thought that, Liam Williams kind of stepped inside and he was throwing short hooks, short uppercuts, and he was moving his hands and he was coming forward a lot. He was making the fight. Now, make no mistake about it. Liam Smith did well with his jab. He was backing up. He's trying to suck traps. And this was kind of weird because Williams is more the guy that likes to fight on the outside. He likes to, fight off his jab, likes to fight at distance. You know what I'm saying? But the difference here was we used to seeing Liam Smith come inside and be more of the grinder inside, more of the aggressive mauler type fighter on the inside. But in this fight, he decided to kind of lay back in the cut a little bit and set traps and back up. And he was the guy that was using the jab a lot from the outside, and he's trying to catch Liam Williams coming in. But the thing is they weren't really throwing a lot of punches at certain points. So it was kind of like a little nip and tuck type thing from the outside. But, Liam Williams kept moving forward. Liam Smith kept moving back. But as the fight went on, I thought that, Williams started getting inside a little bit. That's not to say that, Smith didn't land some good right hands over the top. It's not to say he didn't have his moments. But I thought Liam Williams was the guy who was more aggressive. He was the guy coming forward. I thought a lot of those short chopping shots on the inside that he was landing, he wasn't really getting credit for it. And I thought the announcers were a little bit too favorable towards what Liam Smith was doing. They weren't really giving Liam Williams enough credit for coming forward, throwing punches, trying to force the fight. And I could see if he was missing everything he threw, and I could see if Liam Smith was landing everything he threw. But it was a fight where, it wasn't a fight where there was a lot of it wasn't a fight where both guys were kind of throwing all caution into the wind. It was not a Gotti versus Ward type fight. It wasn't a fight where both guys threw 1,000 punches, over the course of the 12 rounds. These guys were both economical, but I thought that Williams was just that much more busier. He was that much more aggressive. He was the guy, pushing Smith back. So in some of these close rounds, effective aggressiveness. You know what I'm saying? And even though, Smith would be landing the jab, he wasn't really following up the jab with right hands enough. He wasn't throwing enough power shots to stop Williams from coming forward. And when he was moving backward, he was doing some good defensive work, but he wasn't, making Williams pay. He wasn't making Williams pay when he came in, and he allowed Williams to set the tempo of the fight. And based off of that, I thought Williams eked out some of these close rounds because he was the guy making the fight, and he was the guy that was using the effective aggressiveness because he was pushing Liam Smith back. And that's why I gave him the fight. I actually gave him the first 5 rounds. I had this fight 7-5. I gave him the first 5 rounds. I gave Smith 6, 7, and 8, and 11 and 12. I thought Smith finished stronger. That's where I thought when he started coming forward, in the 11th and 12th, I thought he had a good 9th round too. I thought he did some good things in there, but I don't think he was consistent enough. I don't think he threw enough punches. I think he relied too much off of just jabbing, and he didn't really follow up the jab. So that's why I thought Williams won the fight. I thought he got off to a fast start, and I thought Smith was backing up too much, and he really wasn't countering enough to stop Williams from coming in. Wasn't making him pay.
Good deal. Good deal. Before we go to the upcoming fights, let me go to the phones here. Area code 702, and I believe this is Robert, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is.
Robert, is that you?
What's up, guys?
Hey, how are you, man?
It's me.
How you doing? Robert,
I'm good.
Just so everybody knows, Robert is he has actually created on our website a rankings table, and he's got them ranked. I mean, it's an incredible detail on this, from heavyweight all the way down, top 15 guys, and he's ranked everybody. So it's a great addition. I can't even thank you enough. Just a great addition to the site. And as I'm looking at the ratings are for the most part spot on. I mean, there's some definitely questions in there, but I think that's what makes it fun.
Absolutely, and really the rankings will be as good as the feedback that we get on them collectively. If it's not just myself and you guys, but anybody that listens to the show, get involved and we'll have the strongest rankings out there. I think we agree the ring can't really be taken too seriously anymore, and the governing body's rankings are about who's fighting for the international belts and things like that, and who makes them the most money than anything else. So we kind of need some kind of fan rankings that we can all look to.
Well, let's take a look and let's dive right into it here, because the biggest question we had, and I got to admit, when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute here. 160 at middleweight. The champion, of course, is Triple G. I don't think there's any argument there. He's got all 3 belts. You know, he's got the 3 belts. So, hey, what can you do? He's definitely the champion. Yeah. Danny Jacobs then ranked number 1 behind him. And then you have Canelo Alvarez at number 2, followed by Billy Joe Saunders and David Lemieux. And then you have, of course, Ryota Murata versus ahead of Jamal Charlo, which I don't have a huge problem with. I mean, both those guys, especially Charlo, who's still testing the waters at 160. He looks like he's going to stay. But so what was your rationale for ranking Danny Jacobs ahead of Canelo Alvarez?
Well, my thought is that, the reality is that Canelo Alvarez's only fight at actual middleweight limit has been the Triple G fight, which I think most agree he didn't win. In my opinion, I thought that Jacobs beat Triple G, and for that reason, I value at least his performance against Triple G higher than Canelo's. And I think his overall record, especially now including last night's performance, I think RS was a top 15 to 10 guy in the division, puts him ahead on the overall resume.
Wow. Okay. So, but a lot of people did think Canelo beat Golovkin. I mean, now whether he did or not, I mean, the judges didn't think he did, but a lot of people thought Danny Jacobs beat. I thought Danny Jacobs actually beat Triple G too. I can definitely see your point. Yeah. Now, some of the criteria, because we have very specific criteria in order to rank these guys, and one of the criteria is they have to have a fight within a calendar year. And then the other piece of criteria is they have to fight in the division. So Terrence Crawford, moving up to 147, is not ranked at 147 because he hasn't had a fight at 147 yet. And I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to do it, because fighters can often use, well, I can't make the weight anymore, as a negotiation tactic. I don't think Terrence Crawford is doing that for 1 minute, but it has been used before, and it can create a lot of confusion. And you have a lot of fighters that fight in different weight classes rather than when they're having their 8 and 10 round fights rather than their title fights. So it just keeps things a bit more straightforward.
Absolutely. And right now we have, for 140 pounds, we have Terrence Crawford there still as the world champion, because again, until he fights, and once he fights at 147, then he vacates that and we crown a new champion, or we leave it vacant, or however that goes. And so that's how it was. Robert, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, talking about the 147 rankings, we were going over those just before we went on the air. And Robert, you have Jeff Horn as the actual champion. What about Keith Thurman, who has 2 belts, and then you have Earl Spence? I mean, Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao, but hasn't the other 2 guys fought better opposition than Horn? Why did you put Horn ahead of those guys?
You know what? That's a question that I actually get a lot, because I've been running these rankings on Facebook and different forums and stuff like that over the years, and I try to follow some degree of lineage with the rankings. And at the time that Manny Pacquiao beat Tim Bradley in, their 3rd or their 4th fight, those were seen as the number 1 and the number 2 fighters, and nobody really took issue with that at the time. It's only really now kind of people on Monday morning quarterbacking and looking back. But I can totally see the argument for that the other way, and why that doesn't look great. And really, if you have to say who is the best at that weight right now, I think you'd have to say it's Keith Thurman, or maybe even Errol Spence. But I'd say on record it is Keith Thurman.
Very good.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to take issue. I was just surprised when Eric told me that that's what you had. I'm like, okay, because I think when it's all said and done, Earl Spence is going to be the top guy at 147. But I was surprised to have you have Jeff Horn there at the at the championship spot. That's why I asked that question.
So let me ask you a question. If I understand you correctly now, is it more of a lineal thing that we have Jeff Horn ranked as the champion in there?
It's more of a lineal thing, but I mean, I think it's something that can always be under review. And
sure,
I think different to what you have with the more traditional lineal titles, I think if guys aren't consistently fighting the best guys, then that can be under review for sure.
Well, and I'll bring your attention back to the light heavyweight, where of course the most infamous lineal champion right now, Adonis Stevenson, and you have him ranked number 2. You have Kovalev. The championship is vacant in the light heavyweight division. Kovalev number 1, Stevenson number 2, followed by Sullivan Barrera and Alexander Vozdik. All fairly great fighters, man. Badu Jack is number 7. Betterbiev, of course, number 7. But now Adonis Stevenson, why don't you have him since he is the lineal? And is it just because of his inactivity? Is it because of his lack of live bodies in front of him, or what is it?
With Adonis Stevenson, it was all down to he went well beyond a year without fighting anybody that was in that top 15, and that's what cost him. Yeah,
I would totally go along with that.
I really that's a loss. I think when the Ring magazine stripped him initially, they said it was because he hadn't fought anybody in the top 5, which at the time I thought was very, they weren't very strict with it. That they were being overly strict there. But then as time went on, he didn't fight anybody else either. So I kind of came to the same agreement as them.
And of course, with Adonis Stevenson, it's still that way. I mean, he's hanging on to that title for dear life, but not willing to fight anybody. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, anybody else, they'd be raked over the coals, and yet he sits up there in Montreal and doesn't fight anybody.
I think he's almost irrelevant now, Adonis Stevenson. To be honest, he's almost been put to one side, and there's the rest of the division and the guys that are fighting each other, and people take notice of that, and he's almost just this guy that fights every now and then, and no one really cares about it, to be honest. And I'm not an anti-PBC guy or anything like that, but his career has been bizarre over the last few years.
Well, Robert, I'm an anti-PBC guy when you have situations such as his, where they don't fight or they don't fight anybody. It's, I don't like the way the PBC does business when they make more headlines by sitting somebody on the bench and keeping them out of the ring. Like Earl Spence, he won his title in May. He's not fighting again until January. I mean, you've got the one part I hate about the Premier Boxing Championship model is their top guys. They, it's like, well, you can fight whenever you want. We don't really care, Well, I hate that.
Yeah, but you know what? We don't know. Again, I mean, we've gone over this too. Is that we don't know if they're not fighting out of choice or is it just bad promotion? I don't know. They could be very well fighting out of choice. I don't see a lot of PBC fighters complaining about their lot in life. We just don't.
I think, Eric, though, you'll see that Danny Jacobs has been very vocal in the last week or so, or ever since he kind of appears to have left the PBC.
Yes.
That activity is one of the biggest things for that, one of the biggest reasons. And I'm not big into the conspiracies, but there is, I mean, most other fighters and promoter relationships, there's always been a degree of open criticism from the fighters at some point, and that hasn't ever happened with Al Heyman. And I don't think that's strictly down to a case of he does such a good job for them that they would never want to criticize. I do subscribe to the idea that there's something in their contracts that they have to toe the line.
That could be. That could very well be. Let's talk about real quick the cruiserweight division. We have the championship vacant. Is the champion, and you know this better than I do, will the champion be from the World Boxing Super Series?
Almost certainly. I think we have Usyk and Gassiev at number 1 and 2.
1 and 2, followed by Lebedev and Briedis and Dorticos.
And whoever comes out of those two semi-finals is going to be the number 1 and 2 in the division. And I think whoever comes out to win it is going to be crowned as the main guy. I mean, really, Lebedev was the only fighter that wasn't in that tournament that was that maybe should have been considered.
Yeah, I would go along with that. I would go along.
But not the same for the super middleweights, unfortunately. Although,
right,
I don't think that was the point of trying. I mean, the lack of criticism for someone like a Ramirez or the Durrells for not entering that tournament has shocked me, to be honest.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, DeGale is number 1, followed by Groves and Gilberto Ramirez. DeGale and Ramirez, it really surprised me. Why they didn't enter that tournament and stuff. And then you got Durrell in there.
Well, DeGale's had some injury problems, and I think he came out in an interview with the guys IFL in the UK, and he said, I just would not be able to fight at that schedule because they have to fight 3 times within 9 months. And he straight out come and said, I'm not capable of doing that.
Wow.
So that was his. I haven't heard anything from, well, the Durrells don't like tournaments, but we haven't heard anything from Ramirez or Top Rank. And I haven't even heard them questioned on it, to be honest.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, guys, I mean, if you get a chance, definitely go check out these rankings. Robert puts a lot of time, believe me, a lot of time and a lot of work into this. And whether you agree or not, I mean, let us know. Let us know what you think of it. I mean, and it gives us definitely great talking points and everything like that. We want to get these, try to get these as accurate as possible. We want a good mixture and a good reflection of what the boxing world looks like. But I can't thank you enough, man, for all the time and, like I said, effort you put into this for sure.
Oh, no worries. I mean, I enjoy it, and I'll just reciprocate. We'll always listen to the majority opinion on these things. We won't just stick to our guns. So if the people out there feel strongly about something, we'll make the changes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. What did you think of the fights this weekend? What did you think of Danny Jacobs this weekend?
I was pretty impressed with Jacobs. I saw Arias live. I was actually at the Kovalev Ward fight. I saw Arias live, and I was pretty impressed with him. Although it did look like a super middleweight up against a light middleweight in there. So I think Arias needs to jump down to at least 154 pounds. I think you were echoing that as well earlier on in the show.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed with Jacobs. I feel pretty strongly that he's the number 2 middleweight in the world. It's not the number 1 because, like I said, I had him being Triple G earlier this year. So I think he's the main guy. I think he's only going to get better. I think he's only going to get better the way that his career is going to be managed moving forward, as he's going to be fighting more regularly, and that's going to be good for him.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, Miller, I think it's broken record now. I mean, people want to see him down at least 260, and then we might start taking his career seriously. Right now, I don't see him being able to deal with any of the elite guys in the division.
So let me ask you this, because I know I don't know if you saw this fight or not. What did you think of Arthur Betterbiev and him winning that title last night? And what did you think of his performance?
I think, like everybody else, I was expecting to see him just light this guy up and get rid of him in 3 or 4 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, it was disappointing to an extent. But Koelling seemed to be a well-schooled fighter. He certainly wasn't trash, and he dominated every round. I mean, it's not what I think it was disappointing because it's not what we've come to expect. I think had this been a fight earlier on in Betterbiev's career, I don't think anybody would really be taking an issue with it. I think it's because he's been out for so long and people were kind of excited to see him. And this was, although it wasn't officially the main event, I think it was the fight that fans were looking forward to the most, at least the hardcore boxing fans, not the guys in the arena. But I wasn't unimpressed, put it that way.
I thought it would be really unfair of anybody to be unimpressed with Betterbiev's performance. I mean, I thought Koelling looked really like you said, he wasn't garbage. He was a well-schooled fighter. You know, he looked like he was definitely should have been in there. You know, I thought I was impressed by. I wouldn't mind watching him again. Put it that way.
From a rankings perspective, put it this way: he didn't move up or he didn't move down last night. He stayed exactly where he was. Yeah, based on that performance.
Now, did you happen to catch the Liam Smith Liam Williams fight?
I did, and I disagree with Beeb, to be honest. I scored the fight to Smith. I scored it pretty similar to how the judges had it, and I didn't have the commentary on. I actually make an effort now watching fights without the commentary, and that does affect you.
I heard the commentary was very one-sided. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen that feedback online that the commentary was very one-sided.
Yeah.
But sometimes it does work the other way, where if the commentary is so biased, you start actively seeing things for the other guy, and you start being biased yourself. So it can work both ways. But I was impressed with Smith. He showed a different side to his game. I mean, he's won a world title before. He got the Canelo fight. He's not a world-class fighter. I think everyone can agree on that. Maybe he picks up a version of the world title again and gets another big fight. Depends on, the backing that he gets from his promoter. But I mean, he's done well for himself in his career. Josh Taylor, actually, I don't know if you guys have discussed his fight with Miguel Vasquez. That's the performance that I was more impressed with yesterday from a UK perspective.
Hearing a lot about Josh Taylor. Yeah. Tell me about him.
He's a really well-schooled fighter. He has a really strong amateur background. He had a pretty big fight, at least domestically in the UK, with a guy called O'Hara Davis, who's more kind of a bit of a big mouth, really.
I remember that fight now. Yeah, I remember that fight. Yeah. I remember Josh Taylor.
Looks like the best way to describe Taylor is that right now he looks like an 8 out of 10 out of everything. And I think especially like a guy like Beeb, who's really into the technical aspects of the sport, would really enjoy watching his fight with Vasquez. Vasquez is a guy that we know, although he's probably 140 is above his sort of prime weight division, he's not a guy that you'd expect to see stopped. And for Taylor to get the stoppage out over him was really impressive to me.
Definitely.
I'd say I think Taylor's a guy that we see next year start to climb towards world level. We saw the guy Seldon on the HBO card. I think was a fun fighter. He's at 140, right? I think that's a wide open division right now, and I think those two guys are going to be well in the mix to see who's going to be the main man in that division moving forward.
Wow. Very good, man. Very good. Well, Robert, we're going to go ahead and get running, man. Again, man, I can't thank you enough for the rankings. And definitely, guys, go check out his rankings. They're on ringsidereporter.com. Just hit the rankings tab, and they're updated constantly. I mean, Robert had this thing updated as soon as today. As soon as the fights were over last night, he had them re-ranked. So he's doing a tremendous job, a lot of work. And again, Robert, I can't thank you enough, man.
Nice one. Enjoy the show, guys.
Thank you very much. Good stuff.
You're a wonderful addition to the show. Glad to have you.
A wonderful addition to the show, to the website, everything, man. I mean, that was, it was great because, like I said, I mean, I got an email from him. Of course, I didn't expect him to get them updated, I mean, because they just fought, so, that's how rankings are, But as soon as this happened, I mean, as soon as those fights were done, man, I mean, he had that thing updated right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was really
That's his forte, man. He's good with the rankings.
He's definitely got a passion for it, and whether you like it, the rankings or not, I mean, let us know. Number one, let us know what you think. I mean, it's very much fan driven, but for him to sit down and do all this and look at these fighters,
guys, I'll put it this way: we do this show for free. It's not pay-per-view. Well, these are going to be the fans' rankings. You're going to have complete say-so on how your fighters are ranked, and Robert will listen to everything that you say. So this is your chance to even further to contribute to what we do here every week.
And yeah, again, and just as we're talking, I just got the fight from Davey Boy Essex, the Josh Taylor Miguel Vasquez fight.
Yes.
We'll definitely be checking that out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Davey Boy Essex is another one that we couldn't,
The show
would not be
great,
the same
man.
without him, because that's how Beeb and I catch all those fights, all the overseas fights and everything, and he's another amazing addition to the show too. I mean, he's just
I love the guy, and I gotta apologize to him because he sends me so many of them, and I watch as many as I can, but he sends like so many of them, like I watch them, but like it takes me a while to catch up on all of them because like in a matter of like, not that I'm complaining, I just feel guilty because I feel guilty.
Hey,
Sometimes
Baby Boy, I tell you what, Baby Boy, don't send Beeb any more fights.
Because sometimes they'll ask me, how'd you score this, how'd you score that? And it's like I'm still on the first two, you know what I'm saying? It's like I wish I could watch them all like, at once, but sometimes I can't because he sends me so many of them. And it's like I watched 2 of them today. I watched one yesterday. It's like awesome. But they're still like I still didn't see the Josh Taylor one yet. And I'm gonna probably when we finish the show, I'm gonna go watch that one about that fight. So I just feel I really appreciate it. It's just that it takes me time to catch up on all of them because I'm dealing with the U.S. I'm dealing with the U.S. fights. No, I'm dealing with the U.S. fights and I'm dealing with the UK
in all seriousness, we're talking about UK fighters. The UK fighter I'm looking forward to seeing, and I hope we get to see him more, is Conor Benn. He looked
good, didn't he?
He had a second round knockout.
I like him a lot.
That's awesome.
That one. I've seen him. He looks
he looked good.
Yeah. Joe Lopez looks like in the chat, he said, where do we find the rankings again? Go to ringsidereporter.com. And there's a big rankings tab in the top. Just click that. And then you can also see our updated fight schedules too over there. We have stories on there and everything like that, like all the news. We don't have a lot of like the fluff kind of news. We have like the news. And a lot of times there's just not a lot going on. You know what I mean?
No.
We don't put in I don't care. There's a lot of news out there that floats around that is kind of meaningless, and like what they say at press conferences and everything like that. They don't say anything. If they said anything of note, we'll put it on there. But a lot of times we just put like the big news on there, so sometimes you may look at it. We don't have a whole gaggle of stories. It's just is what it is, but we're trying to change that. We're trying to get writers, so we'll see what we can do, man. We got some in place. So good stuff coming. There you go. Let's see here, the upcoming fights. And I think Georgie's on the line. So Georgie, just hang on for a little bit and we're going to get to you here. Upcoming fights coming up. Let's go to our boxing schedule here. And so the first fight is going to be on ESPN. I think this is Friday, November 16th, Robbie. Friday?
That's
Thursday. Okay. From Cancun, Mexico on ESPN Deportes, Robbie's favorite station. Jose Martinez versus Jesus Martinez. They're not related. 10 rounds, junior bantamweights. Then November 17th, the big one from Flint, Michigan, I guess. Anthony Durrell. I guess it's big. It's big in Flint. I don't know. It's as big as you can get in Flint.
It's big because this guy fights once a year.
They got right. They got no water over there.
Wow.
I tell you what, man. Anthony Durrell versus Dennis Doglin. 10 rounds, super middleweights. Jamonte Clark versus Ivan Golub, a rematch, 8 rounds welterweights, and I want to see that. I like Jamonte. And then Ryan Carl versus Kareem Martin, 8 rounds junior welterweights. I wonder if Wood's going to that fight, the one in Flint.
And those will be on Bounce TV, guys.
No, they're going to be on Fox Sports 1.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a good change because originally it was supposed to be on Bounce.
I don't believe so. I believe that we had one. I think there's another one on Bounce, and I'll let you know here in a minute.
Okay. All right.
Let's see here. On BN Sports from Sloan, Iowa. There's a hotbed of boxing right there on BN Sports. Max Ornelius versus Nick Otieno, 10 rounds bantamweights. I can't wait to not watch that one. November 18th. That's a Saturday, yeah? Or is that a Sunday?
Yep, Saturday.
Now, this is what you were talking about here. At Las Vegas on Bounce TV. Julian, J-Rock Williams versus Ishe Smith, 10 rounds, junior middleweights. I don't hate that fight. I'll watch it. Earl Newman versus Lionel Thompson, 10 rounds, light heavyweights. And let me see if there's anybody else on the card you're going to recognize. Doesn't look like it. A lot of TBAs on there. J-Rock Williams versus Ishe Smith. This is going to be a pretty good fight. I think that's going to be a decent fight. I mean, you got to give Williams the edge here. I think he's probably going to get him, but who knows? Good fight, though. From Belfast, Northern Ireland. Now, this is not, there's no TV station on here, but I imagine it'll be across the pond. Box Nation, Davey Boy Essex, however you want to look at it. Carl Frampton, Beeb, your boy from Northern Ireland, Belfast. Carl Frampton versus Horacio Garcia, 10 rounds featherweights. Why on earth Carl Frampton is fighting Garcia, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why he's not in the title mix, I don't know. This is the second time he's fought up there, some no-name that nobody cares about. He's dropped off the map. Just completely dropped off the map.
You know why?
And remember, he's now with Frank Warren, so I wonder what's going on.
Yeah, I don't.
Not with Eddie Hearn anymore. That's the problem.
Eddie Hearn. You called him a wank last week. Called him a wank.
I took it back.
You took it back.
It was the heat of the moment. It was the heat of the moment. I mean, he had a nice sit down. He had a nice sit down in New York with Al Heyman,
Flowers.
Shelly Finkel. This fight's gonna get done. He's opening up a New York office. I'm hoping I could get a job there.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to represent.
Before he left.
I'd love to represent Matchroom in New York, man. I'm going to be contacting Eddie at some point, seeing if I can work at that office. I'd love to do PR for Matchroom in the United States. I'd really love.
When you woke up, was he just gone, or did he stick around? I mean,
I'm want to move to New York City. Yeah.
On the undercard, that fantastic main event between Frampton and Garcia, Jerwin Anacahas, one of my favorite fighters, versus Jamie Conlon, 12 rounds for Anacahas' IBF Junior Bantamweight title. I love Jerwin Anacahas, man. If you haven't got a chance to watch him, make sure you watch him. Patty Barnes versus the dreaded TBA, and it doesn't look like Zolani Tete.
That's correct. Tete, that's correct.
Versus Sabaniso Gonya, 12 rounds for the WBO Bantamweight title. And I think that's it. That's all the names you're going to recognize here. Let's see here. That's about it. I'm looking, nothing.
No, I think we're dry. I think we're pretty dry this next weekend.
And then we got Thanksgiving coming up here, and then we're pretty dry there too. It looks like the 25th. That's when Kovalev fights. He's fighting Shabansky.
That's when Kovalev's fighting. Yep, I know.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well there you go.
But I really got to wonder what he's got left, man. After 2 losses to Ward, you know.
We're gonna find.
Hey,
Ward's a tough guy. It's not like Ward sucks. I mean, Ward's a tough guy. There you go. All right. Before we get into news and rumors.
From this day, you'll be my new fool.
Georgie, talk to me.
What's happening, people?
What's happening?
What's on today?
Hey, man. Georgie, what's up?
What's up, Beeb?
Hey, Georgie, how you doing, my friend?
Listen, I heard Eddie Hearn left $100 bill on top of the table for you.
Oh, that was funny. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Listen, bro. Talking about fake news. Everybody out there listening, man. You ain't getting no fake news over here. These people, credibility, rank on top of anyone. So you will not be stirred in the wrong direction. Listen to the channel. Support them up. Really important. They don't ask for anything else. Now let me get with Eddie Hearn's situation. What's going on with Eddie with these whack ass fucking fights, man? This was great. Cuba looked like 147 pound at top. What this man used to fight? He used to always fight 160. I don't know, dude. So I want you guys to let me know.
I think he was a 154 pounder.
Fighter?
No, I think when he was with the Mayweathers, when he was with Mayweather Promotions, I think he fought at 154. Yeah.
Oh,
I think he's too small. I think he's too small.
The discrepancy was outrageous. He was like a giant fighting a little man.
Yeah, he looks small.
Seriously. I understand your boy Eddie Hearn got to protect his investment because he got, you know, Jacob for future fight lined up with HBO and whatnot, but you got to make it competitive. We can't see these ass whippings like that.
Well, it was the first fight, you know, after the Golovkin fight. It
For
was
me,
the
that's
first
not a
fight.
blessing for Jacobs. I don't think that will bring Jacobs' statue any higher. If anything, gonna fucking diminish his accomplishments.
Well, he's going to come back. He's going to come back versus the Lemieux Saunders winner, so I'm not worried.
Yeah, baby, but it's only so many freebies we can allow. We can't be passing these freebies like that, because first thing you know, it's okay, and then we ended up with a Wilder record sort of thing. No comparing Jacobs to Wilder record, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? You let that fly, baby. First thing you know, you're getting fucked. Can't have that, man. We just can't have that. Need some competition around here, most definitely. And the Big Baby Miller, man, I'm a fan of Big Baby Miller. Big Baby Miller promotions all day. I'm rolling with Cat, but he's not ready. Big Baby need like at least 3 more fights before he be knocking on AJ's door or Wilder's. He got great head movement, but I don't see him with that power is that really not there. He get hit a lot. He got hit a lot yesterday. A lot. He took some shot there. He would have come out from Wilder or AJ. He would have been like lights out. And I love Big Baby, but that's the reality, man.
He's going to get murked if he fights Wilder.
His game.
Yeah, he's going to get murked. Either one of those guys. If he fights
now they got him.
Wilder or Joshua, he's getting murked.
At this point in his career, yeah, but he still can improve. You know, dude young. He was like 300 pounds in the summer, now to 285. Maybe he make it to 170, 170 something. He may, you know what I'm saying, Gali? Because he got quick hands. He's quick enough. So a little more lost weight, a little more movement, and the amount of punches that he throws, then he could be a threat in the future, like a year or so, a couple of years from now, maybe 2 years from now. But he's not there yet. You know?
Yeah.
I also want to talk about this Benavidez dude. Man, how long we been listening about Benavidez? That's like the volcano that never erupts. I've been hearing the Benavidez name on boxing for at least 4 years. Hearing about this dude and this and that and the hype. And I saw him the other day. I'm like, but what the fuck is the hype about, guy?
Who, Jesse Benavidez?
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
So much about this dude, how good he is, and this and that, but I just don't see it.
Well, David's a lot better than Jesse. I'll put it that way.
I don't know, man. Oh, I want to congratulate you guys with the rankings. Not to promote anybody, but I listen to T-Strip, and I love the way he breaks the rankings. If you guys can make shows breaking those rankings, now that you guys going to have the rankings based by the opinion of the public, that's a great idea. Hopefully, your ranking reflects other fans, other YouTubers' rankings. So we have a consensus among fans of who's really there and know what these people tell us. You know, we'll know what the mafia dictates. So these people be writing history left and right. You got Broner with 4 world titles. Malignaggi grabbed 2 fucking belts from who knows who. I mean, this is the problem with boxing, B, right there. What's real got to make it to the top. Know what these people want. So, pretty much that's it. I don't want to take too much of your time. Like I said before, I appreciate you guys listening to me and everybody out there support, you know?
We appreciate it, man. We appreciate it all, as always, man. Georgie with the lights out call, man, for sure. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. He's right. I mean, you know, I don't know. He's right. He's right, especially on the Beterbiev count. I tell you what, neither one of them really done much. Who was it? Vargas. I think Jesse Vargas, if I'm not mistaken, went to Al. Did I read that somewhere? That Vargas
yes,
went
he
to
did go
Al.
to,
Yeah, I read that
that
too.
is correct.
Shifted over to the dark side. What do you guys think about that, man?
Well, this is the thing. I mean,
He enjoys his time off, and he's going to get a lot more of it.
well, exactly, because he mentioned, Keith Thurman's over there, Sean Porter's over there, Danny Garcia's over there, Errol Spence's over there. That's great, but all these guys are over there, and they're not fighting each other really.
No.
So what does that make you think that you're going to get a shot at them? And again, I've given PBC a shot. I've been fair, I think, in my analysis of PBC. When they've done good things, I've mentioned it. But the inconsistencies with Al Heyman fighters, I mean, Al Heyman will give you, like I said before, he'll have a stretch of time where he'll give you some good fights. We had Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter. We had Danny Garcia versus Keith Thurman. We had Lucas Matisse versus Danny Garcia. We had some good fights there for a while. We were having a string of good fights, but as of late, we've been in a drought. These guys have not been active. These guys are fighting once a year. Errol Spence coming off the biggest performance of his career, just winning the world title, and he's been on the shelf. He will be on the shelf for at least 9 months, 8 months after winning the title, and that's not what you want to do with a young guy. Errol Spence already complained about being a little rusty from being on the shelf before we fought Errol Spence. Now he's back in the same boat again. Got to keep these guys active when they're young. It's not really good for the fighter to sit on the shelf. It's not good for him financially as well as physically, career-wise. So I just hope that they have too many fighters and they don't have enough dates, and that's a problem.
I would definitely agree with
one
that.
of the major problems they have on that side of the fence is they don't have a real promoter over there who can put fights together. It's almost like they throw these cards together at the last minute, and there's no really thought put into them. And that's one of the reasons why Danny Jacobs finally left the Showtime side of things and went with Eddie Hearn and HBO. And that's why Betterbiev is now going to be with Top Rank. That's why you're going to see him on ESPN, because these two at least have decided, okay, enough is enough. And other fighters on that side of the fence are going to have to stand up and start defending themselves. And I don't know how many fighters it's going to take for them to realize, hey, we better do something here. It's almost like there's no plan involved over there.
Yeah, I think they had a good idea, but just had bad execution of that idea. I think the PBC really started off as something really good, but I think, they got too big, almost too quick, and they didn't quite know what to do with it. And then you got this big company who can't, they can't make fights because they're not a conglomerate. They can't, they don't have enough dates. They didn't have enough money. They'd soaked all their money into TV and this and that. And I think they were trying to create like a UFC type of thing, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, they weren't successful. They weren't successful at it.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's talk about our news and rumors here. Speaking of the UFC, Dana White, Uncle Dana, my close personal friend, Dana White, getting into the boxing business. At the McGregor-Mayweather press conference, quite a few people took note of the shirt that Dana White was wearing. It read Zuffa Boxing. White, of course, downplayed it at the time, but now it looks like he will make the jump into the boxing world. Now, what this basically means is that the UFC is not getting into the owners of the UFC, which is WEI something, and Dana White, they will be making the jump into the boxing arena. It won't be UFC, obviously, but the owners of the UFC, and with Dana White, I guess his help, they're going to be jumping into the boxing world. Dana White was always involved in boxing. That's how he got his start and that kind of thing. So this Tuesday, Dana White announced that he's getting into boxing, quote, getting into boxing 100%. White told the LA Times, I'm not leaving the UFC. I'm getting into boxing with Ari Emanuel, who's the head of the WEI, and the UFC will be doing boxing too. It's still early. We're still working on it. I've got to get my bleep together, but I'm getting into boxing. It's coming. I tell you what, and I was shocked online how much hate this is getting, how much hate Dana White is getting for this. I'm kind of baffled by this. I really am. We're sitting there, they're dumping on PBC. Everybody and their mother dumps on PBC. We dump on Bob Arum. We dump on every single promoter out there. Why, when a new guy comes in and wants to promote, why does he get the hate too? I don't understand. He hasn't even done anything, and he's getting hate. Let's leave our current crop of promoters that are in the game now. Let's just leave it the way it is, and where you never get the fights you want. We always complain about the matchups. Let's not change anything. What's wrong? I don't get this. Beeb, why is there so much hate here?
I think it's fear. This sport's always been tribal. We've seen it.
Yeah, for sure.
Competition is competition. And people say, yeah, competition is good, but do they really mean that? Because everyone takes a side.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. Like, they look at Dana White and they see UFC. And for some reason, boxing fans, not all of them, but a lot of old school boxing fans seem to be threatened by UFC. They think that UFC is detrimental to the sport of boxing, that it hurts the sport of boxing, that it's taking viewers away from the sport of boxing. And, to quote Lou DiBella, I don't always agree with Lou DiBella, but he said one smart thing that I do really agree with, said boxing is hurting itself, and that's so true, because boxing has done a lot of things over the years that, when it comes to the rankings, when it comes to the matchmaking, when it comes to promoters not giving us what we want, there's a lot of things that boxing has done to itself to hurt the sport. And to sit there and blame UFC for that and blame Dana White for that is ridiculous. So I think a lot of people are threatened by the move. And people, as I said, they take a side. A lot of these journalists, a lot of these writers, a lot of websites and stuff. They're linked to certain promotions. They're linked to certain fighters. So I think they look at this as a threat. They look at this as something that they could be upset about. They're jealous or whatever. And that's the thing. When you start really becoming involved into how do I say this? The nepotism of the sport. You know what I'm saying? Because you have certain fighters like certain writers, certain websites. And when you start taking a side, then it's almost like you're fighting that group's battles for them. And that's not what it's supposed to be. The journalists are supposed to be unbiased. Journalists aren't supposed to take a side. They're not supposed to be pro something and anti something. They're supposed to look at each situation subjectively, or objectively, I should say. And they're just supposed to call it like they see it. So I think the problem is, a lot of people, guys like Bob Arum, guys like Oscar De La Hoya, a lot of people in the boxing world have said disparaging things about UFC, have said disparaging things about Dana White. And I think people who are supporters of those people are jumping into the fray, and they're going along with the same rhetoric. And whether or not that's the right thing to do, which I think it isn't, is irrelevant, because it's going to be done no matter what. So it's like it's always going to be this side against that side, and in a way, it's nothing new.
Yeah, just silly. Robert, you hate the PBC. You said you didn't like what it stood for, this and that. Do you feel the same way about White getting into boxing?
No, here's the thing. Let me rewind the clock for everybody. Remember back in, what was it, 2014, when the PBC started, 15, whatever it was? Yep. Everybody was all excited because it was going to be something new. Well, we had 2 years of what their plan is. Overall, they had a good idea. I just don't like the way they're executing their business, and having people, not fighting at all, or just fighting bum of the month people, or not taking the sport seriously. I feel like there are times that the folks at Premier Boxing Champions are taking advantage of the fans. Dana White has been involved with a combat sport who has, who is basically carved its own niche, and it's extremely popular basically all over the world. And in some segments of the population, it's become more popular than our sport. And boxing fans are jealous over that. But if Dana White can bring some of his UFC ideas into the sport of boxing and become a boxing promoter, it might serve Al Heyman, Lou DiBella, and people who run the PBC, and Oscar De La Hoya and Bob Arum and other people that are involved in the sport. It might make them, hey, we got a new kid on the block. Let's see what he can bring to the table. Let's see if we actually have to worry about this guy. Dana White has been involved with something that's successful. If he can help our sport, why should anybody be against it? We gave the PBC a fair shot, in my opinion. They've proven their track record. Let's give Dana White the same chance, and let's see what he can bring to the table. Right now, it's not worth criticizing. Let's see what it is 2 years from now.
Absolutely.
That's great points. We gave PBC a shot. Why not give Dana White that same shot?
Yeah,
I agree.
Exactly. I mean, just to knock it as soon as it comes out. I mean, he might have better matchups. He might have there's a ton of different things. It's like, why? Well, boxing doesn't need that. Well, it needs something. Tell you that.
I mean, how could it hurt? What's the apprehension? What's the fear? Where's the fear coming from?
Competition drives things.
Yeah.
Competition. So there you go. Mikey Garcia rejects the Jorge Linares fight. Golden Boy president Eric Gomez spoke with Mikey Garcia in an attempt to make the fight with Jorge Linares. Gomez offered him a 50-50 deal to face Linares. No wonder he turned it down. A 50-50 deal to face Linares? Seriously? And Garcia apparently turned it down. Quote from Garcia here. The deal could not happen. But I was with Eric Gomez, and that there will be contact to try to make the fight after this fight, talking about the fight he's going to fight. Then he's going to look to fight Linares. I have more options, in fact, compared to what I was offered for Linares. The guaranteed purse is better for January 27th. Although the fight with Linares, I would love to do very much, but we must take into account the business side of things. Just as Golden Boy is looking to do what's best for their company, I'm also looking to do what's best for me. That was a quote from Mikey Garcia. And quite honestly, this is like a 60-40 split for Garcia. I don't blame him for not taking that fight. That is just nonsense coming from Golden Boy. But he's definitely more of a draw than Linares. So there it is. The opponent, incidentally, being discussed for Mikey Garcia that he will get more money for is Robert Easter Jr. So, that'll be definitely, I think it's a better fight than Linares, but so we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see, Eric, if they have that in Toledo, because every time Robert fights there, he sells out the place.
Yeah, no way that fight happens in Toledo. There's no way. I look for that fight to take place in New York, possibly New York or something like that. It's not going to California. Not going to California, and that fight ain't going to Toledo, I'll tell you that. And no way. So, but yeah, I mean, you look at that, I mean, 60-40 for, or 50-50. Come on, man. Really? I mean, what is Linares? Linares isn't drawing anything. Nobody knows who Linares is. They don't. I mean, Garcia is definitely the A side there for sure, man.
Yep.
Beeb, it's time.
Brianna, I think she's sleeping.
Oh,
I think she's asleep.
Hey.
I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it myself.
She's got a guaranteed contract. She can do what she wants.
And I got a bad cold too, but I'm gonna try to labor through this one. Chugga 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 chugga. Shoot shoot.
Yeah,
that was pretty good. I got it.
Don't quit your day job, all right? We expect next week. Former heavyweight champion Alexander Povetkin, who's serving an indefinite suspension for testing positive for a banned substance, will have his suspension removed on December 6th. He tested positive for it. I can't say this loud enough. He tested positive for a banned substance, and the WBC, in its infinite wisdom, twice, the WBC, in its infinite wisdom, is going to lift this ban because they could care less. They could care less. In its ruling, the WBC said it amended Mr. Povetkin's indefinite suspension and imposed a 1-year suspension from the date the sample had been tested positive. And it was collected on December 6, 2017, which, after which Povetkin shall be eligible to engage in WBC sanctioned activity. The WBC also stated that Povetkin must serve a 1-year probationary period. He was on probation when he tested positive. December 17, 2017, as we'll follow all protocols administered. Let me ask you, what's the point of drug testing this guy? What is the point? I mean, is there a point in drug testing Povetkin? He's gonna be dirty. He is.
The whole thing's a joke.
It is completely a joke. I mean, completely.
He's got the dirty pee-pee.
Completely a joke. I mean, what's the point of hiring Vada? Why are you spending this money? The guy, a guy tests positive. They're going to blame it on meat. Povetkin can test positive for whatever he wants. They get a briefcase full of money from Rybansky, and all of a sudden he gets cleared, after 6 months to a year, whatever it is. I mean, come on, man. Unbelievable. Just nonsense. And finally, this last story warms my heart. Who says love is dead? Much like the undying love Beeb has for Eddie Hearn, this story will warm your heart. Amir Khan has reconciled with his wife, who is 4 months pregnant, possibly with Anthony Joshua's baby. I'm kidding. That was terrible. Beeb,
please.
Why would you bring that up, Beeb? Seriously, why would you bring that up? That's awful. Terrible. You are a horrible human being.
Put that National Enquirer down.
Amir confirmed.
Eric, we're doing a radio show. You have to stoop to that level? Wow.
I do. It was Beeb, man. What can I do?
Please.
Amir Khan confirmed the couple's status by posting on social media. The photo was captioned, quote, "With my 4-month pregnant wife after sorting out all the issues, closing the year with a happy ending."
Wow.
I'm just saying.
I can't even comment on that.
You're terrible, man.
No, and you have to end the show with this disaster? Really?
A disaster? It's a love story.
Wow.
Come on.
That ain't
Come on, Robbie. The holidays are coming up, Robbie. Come on.
But it ain't what.
It's a love story. It's a love story.
Come on, Robbie.
All right. Well, before we get off here, we're going to area code 706. 706. We're going to let him on. He just made the buzzer. Just made it in. 706. What's up?
What's going on, guys?
What's happening, man?
Chilling, man. I just thought I'd call in and set some fucking records straight because you guys are being little bitches about Linares and Mike.
Oh, cut it out. Cut it out, Mr. PBC. Stop
Mr.
it.
PBC.
Hold on, here. It's me, Jason, the Beeb. What's going on?
I know. What's going on, Jason? I love this kid.
All right. So remember, like a couple of months ago, when Oscar had some cards in California, like when Mikey was pushing for the Linares fight, and they went and asked Oscar. Oscar was like, we have a lot of options. Maybe we'll fight the guy in England. What's that guy? Frank Horn's guy. And like,
Terry Flanagan. Flanagan.
Terry Flanagan.
Seconds.
I was fighting these questions like a month or two ago. Do you remember which fight that was in California?
Yeah. They remember Linares fought Luke Campbell in September, and they asked Oscar after the fight, well, what do you want Linares to do next? And he said they had other options besides Mikey
Garcia.
Garcia.
Right. So that's when Mikey was pushing for the fight 100%. And now, because it took fucking 3 months to even get back to him. And now I'm sure Heyman told him, why are you going to wait for him when I got Easter for you? And I just gave him
60 seconds.
And Miguel Cotto made $750K on HBO. So that just tells you, and all these retards are saying Heyman is broke. How is a fucking second-tier star like Mikey making $1 million on Showtime with Heyman and Cotto, a superstar, making $750K on a main event on HBO? How is that? Can anybody answer that for me?
I don't think anybody disputes it.
Well,
What are we
Cotto
disputing
agreed
here?
to it,
Are we?
Jason.
I think we're on the same side of the
Yeah,
argument.
but people are saying Heyman is broke. Why won't he go take more money? That he needs a promoter. So how is Mikey making more money than fucking Miguel Cotto on the main event without a promoter? That's what I want to know.
Who said Heyman was broke? Did we say Heyman was broke?
We didn't say Heyman
No,
was broke.
I'm just saying, like, that's the narrative in boxing. That all these fucking losers are saying Heyman's broke, PBC's broke. So I'm just trying to.
10 seconds.
Who's not even half the star that Cotto is, making more money than fucking Miguel Cotto on Golden Boy, who is supposed to be the best fucking quote unquote promoter in the world.
Yeah,
Because
listen, I'm not a big
Jason,
fan of
number
Golden
one,
Boy at all.
Like
yeah.
I just said, Miguel Cotto agreed to take that money.
Who cares if he agreed or not? I'm just saying, if Golden Boy is so great and Heyman is broke, shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't Mikey be making like $500-600 and Cotto should be making $1 million plus? That's what I'm trying to point. I know he agreed to it. Of course he agreed to it. Everybody agrees to what they get paid.
Right.
So that's the point I'm trying to make. That how is Heyman and them broke, and how does Mikey need a promoter when he's making more money on Showtime and with Heyman?
Well, that's kind of
you guys don't really point these kind of shit out. That's what I'm kind of frustrated. Even Beeb should be pointing this shit out.
I believe we did. If you were listening, what we did say was that Mikey Garcia would have been the A side in there. Linares got offered, him and Linares got offered a 50-50 deal. I said, no wonder he turned it down, because it was a 50-50 deal. Because Garcia has better options.
And that makes sense, right? Because Linares' last fight sold like 3,000 tickets. Mikey's last fight sold 14,000 tickets in New York.
That's what
he's not even from there.
That's what we said.
But this is the thing.
You're angry for no apparent reason.
I guess you said it, but
I've never.
Well, that's why you should listen to the show. Absolutely.
They offered a 50-50, just take it. That makes sense.
I've never been an Oscar De La Hoya fan.
30%. Mikey should get 70%.
Please don't ever insinuate that I would ever defend Golden Boy, because I am not an Oscar De La Hoya fan.
I didn't mean that.
I am not an Oscar De La Hoya fan as a promoter. As a fighter, yes. As a promoter, no. I've always. How many times have I called Oscar De La Hoya a hypocrite on this show? I can't even count. I can't even count.
He's deserved it.
This is my only beef with the PBC. I just want those guys to get more fights. I hate the fact that Errol Spence is going to be on the show.
You can't say that when you're talking about Mikey, when Mikey just fought like twice in the past year. And
I have no problem with Mikey. I have no problem with Mikey. I want Errol Spence in the ring no more than 6 months later after winning that title in the biggest fight of his career. Maximize that. That's why I'll complain about that. Yes.
Again, Beeb, when we say that, how many people turned that fucking fight down? That freaking piece of shit Porter is sitting up on the podium, ducking him in broad daylight. So how many other fighters do you think behind the scenes ducked that fight? If Porter is doing it right in front of the cameras, how many people do you think Heyman called for Spence fight to get him a fight sooner? How many people do you think he called?
Someone's going to say yes. Peterson said yes. Why did that take so long? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Peterson said yes. That's true.
Someone's going to say yes.
And do you think Mikey and Easter will be put on the undercard of Spence fight or no? Do you think?
No, that's
it's going to be its own card. That's going to be its own card.
No, that'll be a headliner somewhere.
It's got to be in New York. It's got to be.
But they're saying it's in January. They're not going to do. PBC's not going to do 2 big shows in January, right?
Well, so January 27th. I mean, there's no way they're putting that on an undercard.
Apparently they are.
Yeah. Okay. Or another thing I wanted to make point last week, that fucking wanker Eddie Hearn is saying Deontay Wilder can't even sell 5,000 tickets. He's lying like a piece of shit when Deontay Wilder sold 11,000 tickets in New York, while UFC is going on at the same time. 18,000 tickets were there. This piece of shit last night sold like 5,500 tickets and comp like 1,000 with Danny fucking Jacobs. So what's going on here? Wilder is not even in his hometown selling twice as much as Eddie Hearn, the fucking #1 star in America. So what happened?
Yeah, I don't know though, but Anthony Joshua sells out like 60,000 over in England.
What does that? What does Anthony Joshua have to do with match from USA Boxing? Nothing. So keep that shit out of
here. What does he have to do with Matchroom? Is that what you said? What does he have to do with Matchroom?
Matchroom USA. Anthony Joshua has nothing to do with Matchroom USA.
It doesn't matter. He sells tickets.
Matchroom now. We're not talking about UK.
It doesn't matter. He sells tickets.
Fuck all that shit. what is that? We're talking about America. Hearn said Wilder can't sell 5K tickets when he sold 11K, and Jacobs sold like 5K.
Did Hearn say that? Did Hearn say that Wilder couldn't sell 5K?
He lies about Wilder, and his guy sells 5K.
I'll be honest though, he did have a stacked undercard in that New York area. And Barclays is a notorious fight town for sure.
Stacked undercard.
NYC.
What are you talking about? Stacked undercard. Showtime had a stacked undercard. Fucking Trout and Hurd, Lubin and fucking Charlo, Laura and that guy. That's what you call stacked, not fucking
stars under
that
there.
bullshit he had last night. That was not stacked.
Big stars on there. People come out for that.
Hell no. Did you say that last night? That HBO card was stacked, dude? What are you talking about? That fucking obese 400 pounders. That was like some fucking third world shit right there. Big Baby and whatever that guy was. That was not stacked.
Are you looking at the chat right now? They're calling you the angry caller.
I'm on that. I'm about to fucking expose Eddie Hearn like they did on Boxing Boys. I'm about to go in on that piece of shit. That motherfucker reported me on Twitter for calling him a lanky cunt.
You're not lying. I don't like Eddie Hearn either. Beeb Eddie Hearn. Beeb spent the night with it.
Eddie Hearn is the best promoter in the sport of boxing right now.
Beeb has been. I've been exposing Eddie Hearn to Beeb one article at a time, one video at a time. Beeb's coming around. He'll see the light. Like by the time Joshua takes a knee, he'll see the light.
Hey, listen, I want that Joshua fight just as bad as you do, my friend. You know, and I said it last week. I had to break down and criticize Eddie Hearn last week. It pains me to do it. I'm probably gonna get fired for doing it, but I had to do it.
You know, a guy like you seems very sensitive. Let me ask you this. What did you think of our last story about Amir Khan reconciling with his wife?
That wife is a freaking disgusting tranny. I don't know why he's even with her first. I feel bad for his kids.
Did I team that up for what?
I love this guy.
I think his wife and Oscar. I think his wife and Oscar would get along. They look kind of like when they're freaking in makeup and dragging.
We have definitely gone in the gutter, folks. What can I say?
I was gonna say. I think Kell Brook getting his face broken by Errol Spence and taking a knee is still fresh in Eddie Hearn's heart. That's why he keeps pushing the Joshua fight. He knows that's the real possibility of same thing happening to Joshua because Wilder hits hard enough to break another orbital bone of one of his guys, and he could have to take a knee. He knows that's very possible. That's why he keeps saying, "Oh, he doesn't sell enough. Let's fight Parker," as if a fucking Parker is a superstar. That piece of shit fought Andy Ruiz. What the fuck? And nobody even says that. Everybody's on Wilder's nuts. So who's he fought? Who the fuck is Parker fought? Who the fuck did Charles Martin fight to get a pay-per-view fight with Anthony Joshua? Nobody even mentions that shit. Fucking rip-off art. This guy's a rip-off artist.
If you go back and listen to our shows, we talked all about that stuff.
I know you guys. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, is it a boxing world? The narrative is never like who is Joseph Jason. Parker? I know Dan Raphael and all this on fucking Deontay Wilder's case. They never asked Joseph Parker why he was so shitty. I don't get that. He fought like Andy Ruiz, that guy that fights like once every 2 years.
But Jason, the sport's tribal. Sports always been like this. You had the Mayweather versus the Pacquiao. You had the Canelo versus the Golovkin. Now you got Joshua versus Wilder. You got PBC versus Top Rank and Gold. This is nothing new, man. It's nothing new. It's just how it is. We're all forced to take a side.
Did you guys talk about Josh Taylor?
Yes.
We touched on him, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we touched on it.
Doesn't he beat Broner and Lipinets already?
Nope. Not beating Broner's son.
No?
Broner's from Cincinnati. He's from Titletown. What do you think? He's going to beat Broner? Get out of here. Titletown, son. Nobody comes to Broner's backyard.
I think Josh Taylor is better than Mikey Garcia. I think Josh Taylor is better than Mikey Garcia. He's sharper.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, Mikey Garcia is going to get murked by Robert Easter because he's from Titletown too.
No, he's not. Robert Easter is about to get beat worse than he lost to that Russian midget Shafika or whoever that was.
Oh, he beat him easily.
No,
that was a
California's
shutout.
about to take Ohio, baby.
That was a shutout fight.
Hey, what about that fucking what about that Panamero guy? This is like the third time he's fucking ducked Spence and shit. What's going on with that fucking coward?
Who was that?
That Russian Panamero, the top-ranked kid, who used to be, before the Algeria fight, he was the mandatory for Spence.
Yeah, he ain't fighting Spence. Nah,
I don't blame him. He had a title fight, and he fucking pulled out of that shit, too.
Yeah, I don't blame him. He'd get murked. He ain't fighting him anytime soon.
What'd you think of Jacobs?
Another thing, what happened to that fucking Artur Beterbiev? He looked like shit last night, and he was another Russian guy.
He was fighting a live body, though. That guy was good, man. I'm telling you what. Anybody who says that guy wasn't good, you're wrong. He was good. He was a well-schooled fighter. He didn't have the pop. He didn't have the pop to keep up with Betterbiev. but he was a very well-schooled fighter, man. I think what happened is Betterbiev clipped him early, and he went into.
I'm talking about Betterbiev. He looked so robotic, like Joshua kind of to me. And the way he looked, Ward would dominate the fucking shit out of him. Like
because the guy was a good fighter.
Jason, that's why he left the PBC, because he wasn't getting fights.
Actually, he hasn't left. Actually, he hasn't left PBC. He's still with Al Haven. That's why they congratulated and said best of luck to him on PBC social media. So he's still with Heyman.
Maybe the PBC is just.
You can go check that social media account.
I know he's suing somebody to get out of his promotional contract.
Michael, yeah, that Michelle Yuan loser
fucking
from Canada that ruins everybody's careers.
What do you think of Teddy? What do you think of Teddy Atlas last night?
PBC accounts, they congratulated Jacobs and Betterbiev.
What do you think of Teddy Atlas's commentary last night?
He loved it, just like I loved it. He put Kriegel in his place.
Beeb, the Betterbiev last night, doesn't Ward dominate him worse than he did Kovalev in the second fight?
Oh, there was nothing that I saw from Betterbiev last night that would ever make me pick him against Ward. No. I think Ward beats
Ward, man.
Ward's the truth, man.
Ward dominates him, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I say, yeah. That guy can't deal with Ward on the inside.
Yeah, no way.
No way.
His best performance was that ball guy, Campillo or something. That was the best performance that Betterbiev had.
Very formidable opponent.
Yeah, he was. I think he was kind of rusty, though. He probably came off a year layoff, too. He wasn't fighting that much. What was I going to say? What about Canelo GGG? Any word on that? Is that happening or no?
No word on that yet.
We haven't heard any.
No word on it, man.
We haven't heard any word on that yet.
I tell you right now, that fight ain't happening.
De La Hoya said. De La Hoya said the negotiations are going slow. That's what he said.
Yeah, because that fight ain't happening yet. He's probably coming back with a 70-30 split or 80-20 split.
Why would that fight not happen?
Special.
What's De La Hoya thinking?
It's kind of funny how Mayweather gets all this stick from Mexican fans that say Mayweather's not a real fighter. But when he has a close fight, he always gives that immediate rematch without any fucking controversy. He gave Castillo an immediate rematch. He gave Maidana an immediate rematch. Like, that's not what Mayweather did in his career, and I give him props for that. Canelo's, he never gave Lara a rematch. He didn't give Cotto a rematch. He's probably not going to give GTG a rematch. So that just shows you what a diva he is. People call Mikey and Floyd divas. This fucking Canelo is turning into Cotto right in front of our eyes, like right in front as we speak. On his Instagram, Canelo thinks he's Mark Anthony now. He was actually dating Mark Anthony's fine-ass supermodel girlfriend like last month. I think he's done with her now.
Yeah, he gets. I tell you what, man. I see him on the Mexican channels, and the girls Canelo gets, man, he ain't playing around, man. They look like models, man. Yeah, they're dime pieces.
Did you guys remember the story when he broke that little flyweight jaw? When that little 120-pounder cheated with Canelo's girlfriend, he broke his jaw. Do you guys remember that story?
No, what happened?
I do, yeah.
What happened?
You don't remember this?
No.
This is the fucking double standard that I fucking hate.
This is why we went long tonight.
120-pounder's jaw. Everybody would know about it. That's you Google it, Eric. Google it right now.
He broke somebody's jaw?
Yeah, Google it. Canelo gets in fight, breaks somebody's jaw. Just Google it, and he settled already for $1 million or some dollars already too.
Wow.
Some little tiny midget stole his girlfriend, and he got pissed and broke his jaw. He's like 180-pounder picking on 115-pounders.
I don't know, man. If I'm Canelo, I'd do the same thing, though. I mean, really. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, if you're Canelo, somebody
Google
comes
it. Google it. I can't believe you don't know about it.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it. I don't remember it. Maybe I did hear about it, but I don't.
Beeb, did you know about it, Beeb?
I did, yeah. I do remember that story.
Beeb, would you do that if somebody stole your girlfriend and you're Canelo? Would you go knock him out, right?
No, I wouldn't.
Look at Beeb.
Because if a girl doesn't want me, I'm not going to beg her to keep me.
There it is. Look at Beeb, player.
I don't need that. I don't need that stuff. I'm 50 years old, man. Think I'm going to chase girls around at this age?
That's it. Girls chase the Beeb, not the other way around, baby.
50 years old. I'm not chasing skirts anymore.
Well, and somebody finally caught up with him, so he may not have to chase anybody anymore.
Yeah, it is.
Also, have you guys noticed in all these latest interviews with Oscarina De La Homo, his eyes look like fucking glassy? Why is that? Every fucking interview, his eyes are all glassy and shit. What's going on with him?
Did you just call him Oscar De La Homo? How disrespectful.
Oscarina de la Homo.
Oh my God, we have really sunk to low levels, folks.
No, a lot of people say
Oscarina
that.
de la Coco, I mean.
A lot of people say that about him.
Next, you're going to pull out the whole stockings business.
This is like a train wreck, man. I should just hang up the phone, but I can't. You know, I was like, I'm just like mesmerized here. I just want to see what he's going to say next.
Have you guys seen his interviews on ES News and stuff? He looks freaking drunk to me. Like, his eyes are so glassy. That's just not normal.
Yeah, you just don't get off that
well,
stuff.
Jason,
and just, you
look
know.
at how many times he's been in rehab. He probably needs to go back.
And don't you think he's still stuck on Al Heyman and all his fighters, that he just can't let it go that Al Heyman took all his fighters and gave him $10 million? And that's why he's so bitter and goes back to that coke, because he never lets shit go in his life. He's always going back to it. He's always going back. That's probably has something to do with it.
Jeez. Anyway.
Right? Every time some big star has a big fight, right before Errol Spence Brook fight, he was talking shit. Now he's talking shit about Mikey. Now he's talking shit about Wilder. Before every big fight on PBC, he's talking shit about them.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, man, I'm not a big De La Hoya fan. I don't like, and I don't think they want to get fights made. I really don't. I mean, just like I said, with the Linares fight, 50-50, there's no way that's a 50-50 fight. And I don't care if Linares has the belt or not. There's no way it's a 50-50 fight. You know, and then you go back,
remember,
and then you're going to say
he's
ducking.
last fight in America. Do you remember?
Eric, I do believe that those two should fight each other.
Sure.
They need to negotiate better.
They should.
You know?
They should. But do you guys remember what Linares' last fight in America was? Like, how many tickets he sold? Do you have any idea?
It was like 4,000. It was at the Forum, yeah.
Yeah.
And only 4,000 people showed up.
That's at the Forum.
Mikey probably sold that many tickets by himself on Leo's undercard in Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, he's a draw.
Because whenever Mikey walks out, almost half the arena is cheering in Vegas or in New York. Like, thousands of people stand up and cheer for Mikey wherever he fights.
That's the thing, man. He's the draw, not Linares. For sure, not Linares, man. Yeah, that blows me away.
I think PBC needs to start letting Mikey fight in California more. He last two fights have been in New York, I think.
Yeah, they're going to keep him in New York. They're going to keep, like I said, if they make the fight with Easter, which is not a done deal according to Robert Easter, definitely not a done deal. But talking about Robert Easter and Garcia, if those two do happen to fight, that fight's almost 100% landed in New York. What
about Mikey versus Vargas? Do you guys see that fight happening in the future? Mikey versus Jesse Vargas?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, especially with Vargas making that move over to PBC.
And Mikey always wanting those big paydays. Mikey always wants to move up these days. He's like, I'm ready to go up.
Yeah, but I think PBC is paying their fighters well.
Vargas,
I mean, they don't seem to be complaining about the inactivity, so can't
really. Well, they pay him to. Eric. They pay him extra money to stay on the shelf. I'm convinced of that.
Granado's just got like 2 fights in 1 year, and he made like 250 last fight, and he just made 200K. So what does he have to complain about? He made like 500K. Like, doctors don't even make that kind of money. Fucking Porter made 500.
Doctors don't make that kind of money.
I believe a lot of these guys.
He's pulling up the W-2s now. Listen to him.
But Eric, fucking Jesse Vargas was on the top ranked shelf for almost fucking year. Mikey Garcia was on the top ranked shelf for 2 years. Brandon Rios was on the top ranked shelf for a year. So why don't you guys talk about the top ranked shelf? You guys are always talking about PBC.
What are you talking about? Vargas beat
that's
Saddam Ali. He beat Saddam Ali and he fought Manny Pacquiao in the same year.
Yeah.
Fuck. Talking about, he wasn't on the show.
And even and I was looking on BoxRec. Jesse Vargas had 1 fight in 2016 and 1 in 2017. So he wasn't kept busy by Top Rank. So let's
because he was trying to get out of his contract with Top Rank. That's why.
Whatever.
Why are they going to give him a fight?
Yeah, but they have a contract. You got to
fight. He's trying to get out of his contract. Why are they going to give him a fight?
Do you understand how this business works? When a fighter is trying to get out of his contract, the promoter that he's trying to get out of the contract with is not going to.
He wasn't, dude. This was the same situation where Mikey, his contract was up. He was supposed to renegotiate, and you're defending a fucking snake like Bob Arum, who has slave contracts, who never lets his fighters renegotiate. What type of shit is that? And think about this: if fucking Bob Arum had as many fighters as Al Heyman, you don't think most of them would be sitting on the shelf too?
Why would you sign that many fighters, though, Jason?
He has like
why would you have that many fighters if you can't keep them busy? What's the sense of signing all those fighters if you can't keep them busy?
True.
Yeah, No, nobody can keep that many fighters.
You're doing.
Nobody can keep that
You're
many
doing
fighters.
a disservice. You're doing the fighter a disservice if you're going to bring him on the stage.
That's none of your business. That's the fighter's business. Go talk to the fighters about that.
Hey, no,
to the fighters.
Jason, we cover this sport. People listening to this show should care about this sport. You know.
I think the fighters.
Aren't you doing the fighter a disservice, Jason? Jason, aren't you doing the fighter a disservice if you bring him on board and you're not giving him the dates?
Yeah, but you know what's the deal if you're fighting with a guy that's touring fighters. It's just humanly impossible to get that many dates. How the fuck you can't?
You shouldn't sign fighters if you can't keep them active.
I agree.
That's the thing.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's the fighter's fault. I don't think that's the promoter's fault. If you know he has like 100 fighters, then he has to go around the list to give everybody a date.
That's why guys are starting to leave him now.
Huh?
That's why guys are starting to branch out.
But Jesse Vargas already has a date. Brandon Rios just got a date. Like he made like 150K already. He's coming back to fight Danny Garcia. So that's two. He's going to be fighting twice.
And I hope they continue to get dates.
Mikey just fought twice in 2016. So not everybody's on the shelf. I mean,
and I hope they continue to get dates.
But he got injured.
But Danny Jacobs isn't. He's not PBC right now. He went to HBO. Why? Because he wanted to get active.
I think there's other things too. I think there's other. Let's see how active he is with Hearn. Let's see, and let's see how many bums he fights. And now let's see how people are giving him the passes for fighting bums, like they weren't with Heyman.
But it doesn't matter.
With Heyman, he just fought.
But it doesn't matter because he's active.
He just fought Kid Chocolate, and GGG back to back, didn't he? Now he's fighting Luis Cuba. Let's see what tomato can he fights next on HBO.
We'll see. Maybe he'll get the winner of
Saunders.
Yeah, we don't know
you
that.
Never know. What if it is?
Eddie Hearn said himself he wants him to get another fight. He said, "I want to build his name up more." So
I don't blame him.
What's going to happen there?
I don't blame him. He's trying to make a star out of him. He's trying to make him, recognizable in the U.S. because very few guys.
Jacobs is not a star. Jacobs is the opposite of a star. Jacobs will never be a big star.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know.
I know about that. He's the exact same as Andre Ward. He's the exact same as Andre Ward.
No.
He's too nice. He's too polite. He's too politician-like. He will never be a big star. No. He's not going to be a Broner or
he's got a good story.
Floyd or anybody like that. He's never be like that.
Well-spoken guy. Good fighter.
I don't care if Don King and Eddie Hearn co-promote him. He would never be a big star.
Don King.
He slaps with his punches too. Did you guys notice how many punches he was slapping last night?
No. He's a good fighter, man. He's a very good fighter.
But Lemieux's probably a bigger star in New York than Jacobs is.
Nah, no way. He's a bigger star in Montreal.
I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, but Lemieux could probably sell 10,000 tickets in New York.
That's why the fight's taking place in Montreal.
Right.
Yep. That's exactly. Yep.
All right, Jason, we got to get running, man.
You could probably sell 10K.
We got to get out of here, man.
I want to thank you for setting everybody straight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I was like, oh. Everybody in the chat saying angry caller. Might have been the greatest call ever. And to think I wasn't going to take it. I think we would have just got out of here after the Amir Khan story.
Oh, jeez.
That made my night.
I don't know, but
it made my night.
I don't know.
6 months ago, when Jacobs was the PBC fighter, he had a beautiful story, and all of a sudden, let's see how he's saying. Let's see who he fights next. I love it.
I think the best part.
But seriously, guys, now that Betterbiev is left, and he's obviously fighting for top rank, and Danny Jacobs has left, and he's fighting for Eddie Hearn. Who do you think the next big domino in the PBC to leave is? Because I think fighters are eventually going to say enough's enough.
I think Spence might be if they don't keep him happy. I think he leaves in short order because he's a guy who wants to be kept busy. I think.
And Deontay Wilder is not really even a PBC fighter. He's fighting on Showtime.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think the best part of the call is he calls up to take us to task for something we all agree with. I mean, we agreed with him on it. He agreed with us. And he was like, I want to set you guys straight. Blah, blah, blah.
I'm not going to go on this crusade to sit there and tell people what they're supposed to like.
Right.
I'm not gonna be the watchdog of the sport of boxing. I'm not the deputy sheriff of the sport of boxing. I'm not here to call people out. I'm not gonna be like Teddy Atlas and get on my soapbox.
Oh, why are you
sit there? I'm not going to do that.
Well, because that's what Teddy does.
Oh, how dare you.
Well, it is what it is.
Ripping Teddy Atlas.
Anyway, everybody check out the rankings, and
closing the show. Look at Robert just closing the show. Robert said he's had enough. Absolutely. No, I agree with Robert. Yeah, go check out the rankings. Let us know what you think. Find me on Twitter at Ringside73 and let me know what you think of the rankings. I mean, and just let me know where, if you see any mistakes on there, if you say, hey, this shouldn't be, or I think this should be, definitely let us know. I mean, that's how we're going to get them accurate. We want as accurate as possible. So, obviously we're not going to agree on them. That's why we have talking points, but yeah, for sure. Let us know and all that other good stuff, man. And that'll do it, man, for this edition of Ringside Reporter. As always, you can catch Robert on Twitter at Ringside Robert, or you can call Ringside Robbie's Corner at 917-259-1810. Leave him a message. You can catch Joe Habib on Twitter at JHabib1 and catch his YouTube channel at beatingtheoddswithbeeb.com. I'm at Ringside 73, and we will see you next week.
Peace.